Good afternoon, mech warriors, mech techs, and nobles in hiding. We are back. The time is a little behind because I was a little lax in getting it started, but it is that time where we dive into the bowels of MekHQ and see what we can fix. What are we doing today? Well, let's just slip over to IntelliJ and I'll tell you. There we go. Let me just turn down my headset so I can actually hear myself. Good. Hello to Radar. Hello, Des Peterson. Welcome back. Glad to see you in chat. Today, as you may have noticed from the title, we are going to be addressing some of the annoyances with StratCon facilities. So anybody who isn't familiar, StratCon is the current digital DM for MekHQ. It handles your contracts, your scenarios, the strategic placement of baddies. And one of the things it can do is establish facilities. And these facilities can have negative impacts. They can make things a little bit harder for you. Sometimes they will attach stuff to scenarios to make them more difficult. Similarly, you yourself can have facilities, and maybe they might be stolen from the bad guys, or maybe you just started with them because your allied command has them. And these also can influence scenarios to make them easier. But herein lies the rub. Facilities will make the scenario ridiculously easy, or they'll make it ridiculously hard, depending on which end of the spectrum you land on. And they are a bit of a wild card. It is very, very easy for you, the player, to be absolutely bullied by facilities. A single airbase bombing you off the face of the planet every scenario an entire week. Similarly, you yourself could be utterly bullying the AI. Every time they build a facility, you say thank you for the gift and steal it immediately. And it ends up where you launch scenarios and you've just got reinforcements upon reinforcements upon reinforcements. That's not particularly fun because MekHQ, when it comes down to scenarios, it is at its most fun when there's a challenge. When you don't know going in if you're going to win. You're flying by the seat of your pants and you're hoping that your strategy will crush Princess and not the other way around. So slipping over to Discord, we've been having a bit of a conversation on Discord, generally to try and gather up all these annoying little pain points that people have with MekHQ, so we can make sure that we're kind of sanding off the edges, making things a little bit easier, a little bit more enjoyable. And one of the requests we had basically boils down to StratCon facilities hurt. So we're going to have a look at that. Now, a lot of the suggestions we had in this particular channel, this conversation, they're not really feasible. And that isn't to say they can't be done. Rather, the Spit and Polish project, which is what I've called this, the Spit and Polish project, it's specifically focused down on small stuff. Doesn't necessarily need to be easy, but it needs to be self-contained, very limited in scope. And the reason for this is to allow us to deal with a whole bunch of individual issues, rather than just focusing down on one problem and really dealing with that. So if we have a look at the list on the left here, you can see that we've done a lot. We've done a lot here. You can see all these ones that I've done next to them. Those are things that we've dealt with. Now, if I were to fully rebuild StratCon facilities from the ground up, all these duns would not exist. The only thing I could do between now and the launch of version 51 at the end of this month, maybe early next month, the facility is the only thing I could do. And as Radar points out, it's not that it can't be done, it's just outside of current scope. Exactly. But what can we do? What is within scope? Because we don't want to leave the situation where players are telling us, hey, this is a problem, and we just go, sucks to suck. Outside of scope, not my problem. We can't do that. That's really shitty. And there's absolutely no point in telling users, hey, tell us the pain points, if we don't actually do anything about them. So we had a team meeting yesterday. We discussed some of the future plans for MegaMek and MekHQ, and let me tell you, if some of these plans, I do like a good plan. If some of these plans come to light, they are completely going to change how you engage with MekHQ and MegaMek. Now, I'm not privileged to discuss them because they're not my projects, and I have a personal rule. Unless I've been given explicit permission, I don't announce other people's projects. But there's some really cool stuff coming, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. When I say we've got our top minds on the job, we absolutely do. People like Psycho Monkey, who are the brains behind handheld weapons. Rules as written, deployable facilities. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. Psycho Monkey's done a lot of really, really cool stuff, and stuff that they're working on now. Let me just tell you, it's gonna make their older stuff look like kids play. It's gonna be really, really cool. Hello, Tyrus! Welcome to the stream. We're currently just discussing what we're gonna be doing today. Radar says, I hope one of those things is working bridge layers. I'm not, I'm a little bit out of the loop when it comes to MegaMek problems. What's the issue with bridge layers? And while I'm waiting for Radar to reply, let me go over what we're gonna do. So as I said, we had a team meeting yesterday, and whilst there are plans that will probably make what I'm about to do today redundant, we agreed that what I'm going to do today is something that we can do right now. Radar says bridge layers are construction only right now. Oh, I see. Bridge layers as in units that lay bridges, and not bridge layers as in the layer on the map that the bridge is on. Okay. Yeah. Now I am with you. Now I understand. But as I say, some of the future plans may make what I'm about to do redundant, and that's okay, because fixing the problem now, even if only temporarily, has value. Because what we're going to do today, these are things that we can do right this second. And as the saying goes, one in the hand is better than two in the bush. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to change facilities in two ways. One, StratCon facilities will only be able to affect one scenario per week. So, if you have the enemy airbase, those pesky bombers that just delete your units, you can sit happy knowing that they will only be able to send out one bombing run per week. Now, if they've got 3 air bases, you're in trouble, because you're going to receive most likely 3 bombing attacks across scenarios in a week. But each scenario can only be affected. Each facility can only affect one scenario per week. And that's a big key one. The other thing, because we're approaching this from 2 directions, the other thing we're going to do is that a single scenario can only be affected by one facility. So if the enemy has 10 facilities, you will not be at danger of them going, you know what, fuck that guy, and deploying the extra units from all 10 facilities to a single scenario. Why is this useful? Why is this good? Well, if you consider there are 2 scenarios when it comes to enemy facilities. Now, I'm not going to talk about player facilities right now, because player facilities kind of mirror this. So enemy facilities is what I'm going to focus on in this discussion. So there are 2 main scenarios. The first scenario is you have loads of scenarios and only one facility. It would not make sense for that single lonely facility to have an overwhelming impact across all your scenarios. It just doesn't work. It makes individual scenarios, individual bases just feel like they have infinite stuff. So what's the other option? The other scenario is you have a handful of scenarios, but loads of enemy facilities. Whilst, yes, if the enemy's got overwhelming force, it makes sense that they might just deploy overwhelming force to your scenarios, but it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to go into a scenario thinking that they have no chance to win. Radar says, enemy sends an entire RCT to take out a lance of 7/7 Locuses. Exactly, and Tyrus' comments that it means that each enemy facility scales infinitely cadence. Quite right. And we have our first bot of the day. Let's get rid of that. Shoo bot. No abominable intelligence in this chat, please. No intelligence in this chat, so let's be honest. So that's what we're going to do. Now, there are 3 steps to this process. Tyrus says, guess they're out, yeah. there are three steps in this situation. First, we need to make it so that each scenario can only affect one scenario. Sorry, each facility can only affect one scenario per week. We also need to then set it up so that each facility can only affect one scenario. Now we also need to then do a sweep over the facility effects for all facilities to make sure that those effects still make sense. For example, there is one facility that reduces reinforcement times. Well, that doesn't really work if it's only affecting it once per week. So maybe we need to review that. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine to have it as a global effect that affects all scenarios, because you still have to buy into reinforcements. You still have to pay that support point. So maybe that works, but we need to think about it. So we're going to do that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and include some logging, because we need to store information about the facilities that have already been tapped. Let's switch back to IntelliJ. Boop. I said boop. There we go. And let's create ourselves a branch. We'll call this StratCon Facilities. Boop. Okay, now StratCon isn't my code. This was made by MekHQ, I believe that's his name. Nick is incredibly talented. Tira's comments, the reinforcement time one is also not problematic. Yeah, I agree. I think the reinforcement time is probably fine. It's probably a bad example, but it was the example that I was thinking of when I was planning this, so that's the one I used. Now, Nick was an amazing developer. They still dabble in MekHQ from time to time, but they've largely left the project now. They've gone on to other things. But they gave us StratCon. So, we have StratCon facility. Okay, no, we can work with this. So in StratCon facility, we can store is tapped out. And tapped out will basically be like in a card game. If the facility is tapped, it's not going to do anything else that week. The good thing is we can copy this. Boop. There we go. So again, there are ways to do this automated, but I like to do it. I like to do it by hand because it doesn't take long. And it helps build my familiarity with the code base. There we go. Okay, so it's just going to do one last sweep, make sure we've got everything. We have. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to default is visible to true. Now, we are going to be changing this. We don't want, sorry, not visible, beg your pardon, is tapped out to be true. We don't want to have tapped out default to true, but for testing, because we want to test to make sure that when it comes to, no, Radar says they sent my lunch to the wrong apartment building. You've been interdicted. Your lunch has been interdicted. So we're setting it to true because we want to test the saving. Because I'm not. Tara says thanks for the lunch. I'm not super familiar with how we load and unload StratCon facilities. However, this looks like it's possibly. So load facilities from manifest. Your lunch got timed out. No, poor Radar. So a good place to start is we can do set visible and see if that contract initializer, rules manager. Yeah, this doesn't seem like it's going to do anything. Okay, what we're going to do? Boop, we're going to go to MekHQ. We're going to launch a campaign. we are going to travel and we're going to add a facility. And then what we're going to do, we're going to save the campaign. We're going to go inside the campaign save itself. And we're just going to see what the state of the facility that we've created is. And see if the is true saves. And if it does, we go back into the code, we remove the is true. Because that's just there for testing. We remove the is true, then we're going to reload it and see if the is true persists. So for this, we can go to MekHQ. We're going to do the learning ropes because that's already got a nice contract ready and we don't have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. Loading. How is everybody today? I've had a pretty productive morning. Been working on a whole bunch of smaller stuff. Because I like to leave the longer stuff for the streams because I think it's a bit more interesting. Nobody really... veteran's fine. Nobody really wants to just watch me do silly little things that are super easy to do. It's a little bit more interesting if I'm doing something a tad harder. That's why I'm doing this now, as opposed to some of the stuff I did earlier. Accept this contract. Now this whole dialogue, this whole screen, it needs some work. It needs some love and tenderness, and unfortunately that's a really big ask. One day I'll update it in a similar way that I did the recruitment stuff. Just checking that I had everything correct. Off we go. No! Tiris says their cat's off the bird in the bathroom and they're ornithophobic. They have since made off with it outside. Well, at least they showed you the kindness of taking it outside. They really didn't need to. I think we all know as cats. They did I actually travel? No, I didn't. I clicked advanced multiple days. I didn't actually click advance. Go away. I had to remove Bandit, my cat's bed, because I have a desk bed because he likes to hang out. He's a cat that likes to hang out, and you may have noticed previously that he had an awful habit of smashing the mic on his way to the cat bed, and so I've moved it to the other side of my desk, and unfortunately, it now means he has a direct route to my Lego shelves. So all of my Lego is now in danger. I need to rethink that placement. Radar is just having the worst morning. They not only sent their burger to the wrong place, but they actually forgot the burger. My guy is ordering from Burger King, and the king forgot the burger. Okay, so we've got a facility here. Let's advance day once. And we're going to close out of here. Now this should have saved. And we're going to open up the save itself in IntelliJ. So this requires a little bit of fiddling on my part, so just bear with me while I remember where I put the save. There we go. Radar just got a king. Exactly. Okay, so in theory, it should be saved under is tapped out. So let's just test that. Okay, so we can see here, is tapped out is saving as true. Some burger second in line. So we can see that is tapped out is saving. So we're now going to go back into StratCon and we're going to remove the is true. So if this is, we know it's saving correctly, we now need to test, is it loading correctly? So we're going to go and boot up MekHQ again. And this time, because tapped out doesn't have anything after the is tapped out, a Boolean will always default to false. So when the facility is created, it's going to be created as not being tapped out. However, what should happen is the is tapped out value from the save file should overwrite it. So we'll load in, we'll advance a day, which will create a save. We can then compare this save that we're looking at right now to the new one. And is tapped out should, if it's working, be true in both cases. Now, if tapped out is either missing from the new save or is false, we know that the campaign is not correctly loading in is tapped out, because we know it's saving it correctly, but it's not correctly loading it in. So we've loaded, let's hit advanced day, and I've got it set up so advanced day creates a save so I don't have to do it manually. We can close out of here, head back to IntelliJ, boop. And like before, we're just going to open up the new save, and we're going to see what is tapped out is. Okay, so is tapped out is true. That means saving and loading both work. If this had been false or missing, because false is the default value of a Boolean. So sometimes what programmers will do is they'll tell variables not to save if they're the default value. Now this, in my personal opinion, is a mistake. What you save in passing in the save and passing out the save is not worth the danger that if you choose to change the default value at a later date. Because if you change the default value at a later date and you're not saving the default value, for example, if you say the default value in an integer is 5 and you later change it, you have to then add a compatibility handler to migrate existing saves that have no default value because it's no value saved because it's defaulting to 5 to the new value. And that's something we've run into a lot over the years. So now I'm very strict, and if you're adding a value and you want it saved and loaded, you need to explicitly have it saving and loading, even if it is just the default value. So if this had been missing, which it could have been, we would know it'd be false. And that would mean that loading, because it's going to load in as true, we know that loading and saving, because both of these are true, now works. So that means we're now in a position we can move forward. So, Hannah, hello, welcome to joining us. So it's tapped out. Whilst it makes sense to me as a connoisseur of your collectible card games, it's not really immediately obvious what it means. So we're actually going to change this. So we're going to rename it. We're going to say is available. Boop. And this is going to rename the getters and setters. We're just going to make sure everything's renamed correctly. That's good. That's good. See, these are still showing as is tapped out, so we just need to change that to is available. Ooh, accidentally killed the closing bracket there. And these variables here, the input variables, they need to be updated. We're technically not, they're input parameters. That's what this bit called. So, boop. I said, boop, thank you. So this set is available is a method. Methods live inside classes. In this case, this is the StratCon facility class. The bit in brackets is the method parameters. That's how you pass variables into the method. Excuse me. So for example, we're passing in this case a Boolean, so it's true or false, and we're passing in is available. So all this does is go pass in the Boolean and sets the Boolean value to what we've just passed in. Now we need the this in front of this, because if we were just to do this, boop, because the input variable and the class variable are identical, the class variable is available will be overwritten by the input value. And I don't mean the value will be overwritten. All this method is doing right now is taking in is available, and then this specific instance of this available is then being set to this instance. So if we passed in true, is available, again, not in the class, but in the method, would become true. So essentially, all we would be doing is this. And then you look at it like this, you realize that that's complete nonsense. That doesn't do anything. We're just saying, we're inputting true and saying true equals true. We could input false and we'd just be saying false equals false. So to stop that from happening, we add this. And what that means is it says, it's basically a short form way of saying, I'll type it out and I'll read it. So what we're saying here with this dot is available equals available, we're saying the specific class version of is available, the ones all the way at the top, equals the parameter version of is available. And then we avoid the issue of going true equals true. As we're saying fetch is available from this class. And we're saying set it to whatever we're inputting as is available. Now, you could skip this whole necessity by saying, we'll call it is tapped just for argument's sake. So get rid of the comment. You could remove the need for the this. Give me a second, I'm completely butchering that. There's a bit of a delay because I'm running OBS. There's a bit of a delay between me typing and it appearing. So there's a bit of input lag for me, which is why it's sometimes not always immediate. So we can avoid needing to put this in front of is available by just changing the input parameter. So if we're changing it to is tapped, we're just saying is available, and there's only one instance of is available. It's attached to the class equals is tapped. However, I prefer this method simply because when you're saying set is available, you can immediately see. So if you're looking at this from elsewhere in the code base, you can easily see right here in the middle exactly what we're inputting and therefore what we're changing. And it just ensures consistency. And this dot here is an address, period. So what this is really saying is, breaking out comments again, get this, so we'll capitalize that, get this class. In this case, the class is StratCon facility. So get this class, and in the class, get is available, and then set is available to the parameter is available. So again, all this line says is it's telling the compiler to get this class, StratCon facility, that's what this is for, and the dot says look inside the class. So get this class, and inside the class, get the variable is available. So the local variable inside this instance of the class, and set the local variable, the global variable is available to be identical to the input parameter is available. And the compiler is super smart. It does this all just by having one line. And the way you do that is by adding this. This, again, we're fetching this class, and then dot look inside this class for is available. It's really, really clever stuff. Like, compilers are amazing. So Tira says, and now have to define what parameter is available means. No, so we've already defined that up here. So we've already established the parameter, rather the variable is available. And in the method, we've also defined that the local method parameter is available is a Boolean, so it's all defined. You can add Java docs to explain it, but we've already defined what the variables are. So we know we can save, we know we can load, and we should be able to fetch this. So what we're going to do, we're going to find an instance of where we are fetching StratCon facility. Allied facility, here we go. And we're just going to go ahead and make sure that if we reach inside our facility, yep, and there we go. We're just verifying that we can in fact fetch is available from inside Allied facility. So what we've done is we've checked saving, we've checked loading, and we've also very quickly checked that we can get the information that we need. That's the bare bones building blocks of what we need to do, because now that we can save, we can load, we can fetch, now we can actually start implementing the good stuff. So track state get facility, this is where we're fetching the facilities for the specific track state. Now we've done the saving, loading, and the getting, so let's just commit this, because it means if we make a horrific mistake moving on, we can roll back without losing our initial work. Hannah asks, what are you working on? We are working on some updates to StratCon facilities. We are nerfing them to remove a few pain points players were having. Specifically, we are setting it so that each StratCon facility can only affect one scenario per week, and each scenario can only be affected by one StratCon facility. This is actually what we were discussing. Me and Psycho Monkey were discussing last night in the dev meeting. Yeah, exactly. And if anybody curious, this is intended just to be a stopgap, but the best kind of stopgap is one that you can leave in the program indefinitely and it's not going to hurt anything. you'll find that as a rule, we as developers for MegaMek, we're really adverse to duct tape fixes. The fixes that aren't fixing it, they're just kind of masking the problem. This is not an example of this. This is a system that's designed to be temporary, but if this was never updated, if a new system was never implemented, this fix would be fine. Leave the duct tape fixes to the mech techs? I'd rather not. They're not very good at it. The mech techs seem to come equipped with their own personal big gulp, and they frequently just push it over. They're like cats, really. They just see the big gulp sitting there on the command console, and they just can't help themselves. They just sort of push it over. Okay, so we're just commenting that we're just basically, this is just a basic setup. Nothing particularly exciting here. So that's that done. Now we need to jump over, so we don't need to do anything else with StratCon facility, that's done. What we do need to do, however, we need to start limiting the facilities themselves. So we know that to get the facility, we're going to need to use get facility. So that's actually a really good place to start. We can have a look at all the instances where get facility is called and see what our options are. So what we're looking for is probably an ATB scenario constructor. And we're just looking for see if we can tell where in the scenario process we are applying facility modifiers. Deploy force to coordinates. Let's see. Generate a scenario of assisting forces might be it. I'm just going to continue scrolling down just in case we can see anything else. Scenario setup scenario. Let's see here. So this is determining if a facility is in the location you deployed to, and it's going to set up the facility scenario. And here's if we randomly generate a facility. So that's not helping us. Else, generate scenario. Okay, get a random scenario, and we're moving on to this version of generate scenario. Add facility modifier. Here we go. So we now know what method we're looking for, where we're applying the facility modifiers. But it does look like we're only doing it in one instance. That doesn't seem right. So let's jump back up here. Oh, I see. The reason why it's only being defined in this location, I misread this condition. When this condition was saying campaign, get campaign options from within campaign, and then check, are we using StratCon mapless? Mapless StratCon does not use facilities at all, because as a player, you have no way to combat them. So this is where we're setting the facility modifiers. Goody good. So track, get facilities, key set. Alrighty. So we can see here from the comments, we're looping through the facilities in the track, and if a facility has been revealed, it's going to 100% apply its effect every time. But if it has not been revealed, then it has a N%, where N is the current aggro rating. If a facility is on the scenario coordinates, then it applies the local effects. Okay. So this is exactly where we want to be looking. Hum diddly hum. So really, I think what we need to do is we need to start by building a list of valid facilities. And this is probably going to be a, let's see here, StratCon facility. Okay, we can work with that. Now we're going to start by, we need to define that as a list. Whoops-a-doodles. Now we're going to start by looping, actually we can copy this line down here. We're just going to loop through all the facility coordinates. But we're specifically looking not for facility coordinates right now. Now, we're probably going to need facility coordinates right now, but later. But right now, I just want to have a look at what facilities we're getting. Because we're probably going to pull the facility coordinates from the facilities themselves. So get facilities returns us a map. A map is like a dictionary, and I've mentioned before, but in a lot of other languages, maps are specifically referred to as dictionaries. And like a dictionary, you have the key. In a dictionary, that'd be like a word, and you have the value, or in a dictionary, it'd be the meaning. So the key and the meaning, effectively, the word and the definition. And what we're doing is we're fetching StratCon facilities by getting all facilities on the track, and then only getting its values. And the values, in this case, are its facilities. And we're going to filter them out. If facility, that's fine, is available, then we're going to add it to valid facilities. There we go. So this is going to give us a list of those facilities that are available, and it's going to ignore any facility that is not available. And right now, I mentioned this many, many times. Apparently, I'm just completely mucking things up here. We've mentioned this many, many times, but when you're first putting code onto paper, or IDE, as the case may be, you don't need to be exact. You're just kind of feeling the code out. You can kind of consider it like a discovery phase. Now, we can do a secondary loop to only go through valid facilities. And we're going to need to get the facility coordinates. That's easy enough. It turns out it is not easy, but that's okay, because we can fix that. How can we fix that? By caching. So we can make a cache, we'll call it all facilities. And a cache, as I said before, a cache is just a reference that stores data. So it's just, a cache is just a fancy way of saying a variable that we're going to use later. And the reason why a cache is, it means that because we're getting all facilities multiple times, we only need to fetch it once, and then we can reuse this reference everywhere else. No, this is good. What we could have done is looped through the map and just taken stuff out of the map. But I think this works. I don't want to get a so you can if you're editing a array, a map is a type of array. If you're editing an array while you're looping through it, it tends to get really, really grumpy at you. So we're just going to do it this way. So to get the coordinates, we're going to have a look at all facilities. And can we do it this way? No. Let's change our idea here. Rather than, yes, now we're thinking of portals. I'll deal with that in a second. I can never remember how to initialize a hash map. Is it literally just that? It is literally just that. Okay, so rather than fiddling around with creating arrays and then referencing maps and stuff like that, we're actually going to create a secondary map. So the first one, we're going to loop through this array up here, this map, and we're going to find all the valid facilities. We are then going to add the value of wards and facility. Now facility we already have defined, because here in the loop we're telling it to call every instance of StratCon facility, and we just replace that each time. But we do need to get chords. But that is very easy, because no, there's a better way of doing this. I say very easy because, and then I realized we can actually do this. We can do this better. Now I need to remember specifically how to do this, because there's a really, really clever way to loop through arrays in a manner that allows you to fetch. Hey, Feisman, welcome back. I hope the big boss wasn't giving you too much trouble. So yeah, there's a clever way you can reference a map, and you actually get the key value pair. I think it's called pairs. So let's try. We're just going to call it facility for the sake of argument. In all facilities. It is not throwing a wobbly. It's not much one. Entry set. There we go. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to grok. So I've mentioned this before, grokking is the process of, there we go, of fumbling through the code base to find exactly what you're looking for. I was halfway there. So it is in fact map entry. Voila, okay. So, if we go back to our explanation on maps, a map is a dictionary. Effectively, it is having a value and then defining it. So in this map, we have, if you imagine the Oxford English Dictionary, instead of words, we have StratCon coordinates. And then instead of a definition of what that word means, we have StratCon facilities. And here, we are creating a single instance called facility, and we're just going to keep wiping that. Because what we're going to do, we're going to call it facility entry. Pink Bully says, unlike a dictionary, finding something in a hash map is fast. Yes, hash maps are incredibly fast. Looking something up in a hash map is really, really convenient. It's to the point where it doesn't really, you don't even need to think about how much computation it's taking, because even for huge hash maps, it's really, really efficient. So we're going to grab a facility entry, and from facility entry, we're going to grab the facility. We know that facility is the value. I have to remember how to do this. Okay, get values, there we go. And we're also going to grab the coordinates, and the coordinates are going to be get key. And we need actually facility coordinates, because it seems we've already defined coordinates elsewhere in the method. Now we're going to check, is the facility available? So is facility is available? If the facility is available, we're going to take valid facilities, and we're going to plonk in the key value pair. Boom. So now we have a system that's going to filter through all facilities. It's going to find the valid facilities. And the valid facilities are those are only are available, so they haven't done anything this week. And again, for anybody who's just joining us, right now what we're doing is we're limiting each StratCon facility to only be able to affect one scenario per week. There's more stuff we have planned, but that's what we're doing right this second. So, down here we're checking. So this is the original code. Now, this is really messy. We don't want to have loads of stuff happening in one method. We are going to break it out, but for now we're just going to walk through the code. So the original code, we're checking, is there a scenario at facility? So for this, we actually need all facilities. Why on earth are we looping through all facilities? Here's a better way. Rather than looping through all facilities, we're going to take advantage of maps. So we can say, yeah, okay, so this is looping through every facility and applying every facility. All right, so first we need to know, is there a facility at this specific coordinate? So we can have a look at all facilities, because if you're landing directly on a facility, it makes sense that that should always kick in. We don't want to filter that out. So if there is, we're going to fetch. Okay, so this is the facility we're working from. This is our working facility. Okay. So we're going to call this local facility. And this is going to be chords. We can actually just doesn't equal now. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Get chords. So if there is a facility at these coordinates, let's call this local facility. Because again, we don't want to be duplicating our work. So if local facility doesn't equal null, scenario at facility is going to be true. Then we are going. Now, another thing we're doing is if only one scenario can affect, sorry, only one facility can affect a scenario. So here, down here, what we're doing right now is we're building a list of the modifier IDs. We actually don't need that. So we're going to get local modifier. Is that an array or is that just, okay, so that is an array. So we do need to establish an array. Okay, so we're going to call this local modifiers. And no, let's go with relevant modifiers. Local modifiers. Boop. It's going to be local facility get local modifiers. And we're also going to get global modifiers. Just checking. So that local facility doesn't equal null. That's fine, because we're going to wrap this. Let's wrap this in scenario facility. So we have a facility and the location that we're deploying the scenario to. We are then going to check. If local modifiers is not going to equal null, I said it's not going to equal null, bugger off, is empty. So if local modifiers are not empty, we're going to add all local modifiers to relevant modifiers. Else, we're going to add all global modifiers. So if we have a facility, so if we're landing on top of a facility, we're checking for its local modifiers. If it does not have any local modifiers, then we're going to use its global modifiers instead. And that's going to give us our relevant modifiers. Now, down here, we're defining the modifiers. Now we're going to duplicate some code a little bit, but this is okay because it's not going to stay in. There we go. Where is local facility? There we go. So this is this big old block is handling specifically what happens if the player, or specifically if we place a scenario right on top of the facility. So let's break this out, because we don't need to have all of this in one method. Having it all in one method is gross. It just creates incredibly long methods that nobody can really figure out what's going on. Yeah, that's not right. So what I've done is I've extracted the code here, but IntelliJ is being dumb and doesn't think we want to return a value. It's just not ideal. So where is my valid facilities? I'll call this active. Let's call this get available facilities. My incredible spelling strikes again. Invalid identifying name. What do you mean it's an invalid identifying name, you bloody piece of shit? Okay, extract method. Call it that. What did I call it? We'll call it available facilities. Definitely don't want it to be referencing itself. There we go. Does it need to be static? Stack's fine. Okay, back up here. So now, let's just get rid of this. Because we're going to have, rather than having it commented down here, it's far better to be up here. Because Java docs, which is this chunk at the top, if you hover over the method, you can read the Java docs anywhere. Comments in code are only available if you go directly to the code. So it's always better to have the explanation in Java docs. So what are we doing? We have fetched all facilities. We've built a separate list or map that only contains those facilities that aren't on cooldown. And now down here, we are finding if there is a local facility. And we're going to break this out. So if there is a local facility, we are going to go ahead and get local facility modifiers, ignoring availability. So what does that mean? That means if you attack a facility and the facility has exhausted its uses for that week, it will still be able to deploy its modifiers. So attacking facility will always see the facility have its modifiers, whereas this facility attacking a scenario is based on availability. And that means if we're ignoring that, we don't need to filter. So we're only going to filter if we have to. So we can return at this point. This gives us an early exit. So what does this mean? We're going in, we're getting all the facilities. If there's a facility in the specific location we're deploying to, then we're going to get the local facility modifiers and ignore availability. And then we're just going to exit. If there isn't one, we then need to get the available factions. So we need to facilities available. So again, okay, give me a second. We need to get the available facilities and then filter them through. We now need to pick one. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. I believe it is objects utility. Get random item. You only want the values. So here's something we didn't consider. If you attack a facility, it's going to get a use of its facility stuff. What if that exhausted it for the week? I think that's a good idea. So we have a local facility. It's going to get its modifiers, we're going to apply them to the scenario, and then we're going to exhaust it. That is available to false. Which is actually highlighting an issue because we are defining it as is available. We're no longer defining it as is tapped. And that means we want facilities to generate their default state as being available. So that's a quick correction there. So is available is going to be set to false because you attack the facility, you've exhausted its capabilities. Now, if you keep attacking it, it's going to keep magicking capabilities out of nowhere, but it means you can attack in the base to trigger their stuff, and then you don't have to worry about dealing with that base for the rest of the week. So you can harass bases, which I think thematically makes sense. Oop. Let's jump back up to here. So now we're getting a random facility, and really, if you think about it, we can kind of reuse this. This time, random facility. And that's going to remove a lot of duplicated code. So let's hop ourselves down here. Boop. If available facilities. I have a love-hate relationship with auto complete. I find it a bit like Clippy. Sometimes it's useful, but more often than not, it really is not. Oh, what have I done here? Clicking the wrong things. There we go. So, we recognize that we're not deploying to the location of a facility. So down here, we're now going to filter out to only get the facilities that are currently available. And if the list is not empty, i.e. there is an available facility, we are going to go ahead and rename this. We're going to get facility modifiers. And we're no longer ignoring availability. So we do need to update this. So first of all, we need to update the parameter. We're just going to call it facility. I'm going to add a boolean. Let's call this local. So we're only adding the local modifiers if local modifiers are not empty and this is local. Now here's something I never used to be good at. I can just type in false here and true up here. But that's a magic boolean. That doesn't really tell anybody what it means. So we're going to call it boolean is local facility and false. And up here, we're going to say it's true. Now normally, I would initialize the boolean at the top here so we can reuse it in both places, but because we're early exiting here, we're only ever going to be accessing it once, so it's fine. And this, because we're only accessing once, can actually be a final. A final just tells the IDE that it's not going to change. Is that returning anything? That is not. And there we go. Here it says, I use a heavily hybrid form of my native language and English and text. My autocorrect probably thinks I'm a sorcerer. I know that because that feeling. I used to live in Finland, and so I would be texting people in Finnish, texting people in English, texting in a hybrid of English and Finnish, and my autocorrect had no idea what was going on. And Radar has finally got their damn burger. Oh, congratulations. Clap, 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 clap. About bloody time too. I hope that burger is gold-plated for how long it took them to make it for you. So we've created, I keep clicking the wrong bloody button. There we go. We've created a bunch of stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to step over to, no, we're not. We're going to clean this up. Call this apply modifier to scenario. It's fine. That's fine. It just moving that down there just cleans up the code a little bit. It's not strictly necessary, but it just helps clean things up. So now we're going to copy this, and we are going to go and switch over to Claude. Now, why are we using Claude? Isn't Claude AI bad? AI can be rough. It's not perfect. Oh, apparently I'm out of free messages for today because I was using it to document earlier. So let's go to ChatGPT. There we go. Go away. So, why are we using AI for this? Are we vibe coding? We are absolutely not vibe coding. What we're doing is we're going to ask the AI to write the Java docs for us. Now, this serves a couple of purposes. Chief among them, I am terrible at writing Java docs, and the Java docs are going to be significantly more readable if I don't write them. The other thing is, you know, when you're writing for school, when you got your homework and stuff like that, or writing for anything really, and you ask someone else to take a look, not because you need the critique, but because you want a second pair of eyes on it. And that's what the AIs are to me. They're just having a second pair of eyes on my code, and the Java docs they write are going to tell me exactly what the code does. And obviously I know what the code does, or rather, I know what the code should do. The AI is going to tell me what the code is actually doing. And the amount of bugs I've caught, because I've noticed that the AI is describing something wrong, and I'm like, no, the method isn't doing that. And then I go back to the method and I realize that is actually what it's doing, and it would have been a problem. So AI, again, we use AI as a tool. We are not the ones that are letting AI use us as a tool. We are not just getting the AI to program a thing and just copying it over. We are using it as a tool. We're using it to enhance, I don't want to say enhance our efficiency. I've also realized I've just accidentally forgot to tell it to do what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. There. So we're not relying on the AI to do our job for us. We're using the AI to support us. And I don't want to say we're using the AI so we can code more efficiently, because that sounds like some corporate bullshit. And anybody who says that AI will help you code more efficiently and that you should be using AI vibe coding is AI pilled to the max. If you know how to program, you do not need to vibe program. And if you're learning how to program, go on YouTube. Do not make the mistake of learning from the AI. It will teach you so many bad habits. Tira says, AI and I have a lot in common. We're both overused tools that are only reliable in narrow context. Pinky Billy says, I know what it does today. Exactly. And if I don't Java doc, I won't know what it does tomorrow. So again, we've just copied this across, but we're not going to rely on the AI. The AI is a tool that we use. And, like with any tool, anything we do, we've got to check our work. So for starters, this part where it's opening paragraph brackets and then not closing them, that's a problem. And that's a big old problem. Now, technically, the Java doc will work with that, but while it will work with that, our code quality will just have a field day. And down here, so we're still opening paragraphs and not closing them. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just reformatting, and then I'm going to be going through each Java doc and reading it. I'm on the wrong screen? Yeah, that sounds about right. There we go. Sorry, Tirish, you've got to pay the subscription to leave ChatGPT. You're only allowed to stop using ChatGPT if you pay for the premium model. It's a new thing OpenAI is doing. It's definitely how it works. You know that if the AI bros could get away with forcing locking people in their AI interfaces forever? You know full well they would. A quality user experience is not what you get from the AI companies. You get an illusion, and I'd say you get an illusion. Of the AI that I've played around with, Claude AI is definitely the better of a bad bunch. Blasted Comstar HPG rates? Exactly. Oh, see, here's the thing. The AI hasn't even Java docked this one. I don't recommend AI over learning to program yourself. I think if you've got the time and if you've got the patience, learn to program yourself. But if you are going to use AI, do not use ChatGPT. I'm only using it because I have run out with my free credits for Claude. AI has its uses though. Copilot in VS Code is pretty handy if you need to. For example, change a lot of strings or values amongst other time savers. Yes. No, Pinkbully is correct. And this is what it comes back to. I am not against AI. I'm not a fan of corporate AI stuff, but that's generally, I'm not a fan of corporate anything. But I'm not against AI. I believe, and I've said this a few times on stream, I believe that AI is a very good, a very powerful tool. What I do not believe is that we as a people have learned how to use it properly yet. And I also believe, and people who are regular my stream probably bored is hearing this right now, I believe that right now the AI tech bros have a vested interest in convincing you that AI can do everything, Because their whole business model is investment model is relying on AI becoming the most profitable enterprise in human history. And to do that, they need to convince you that AI is the most powerful tool in human history. I do not believe it's that. Pinkbully says, I can never learn coding from YouTube. My ADHD stops that. No, I can understand that. Radar comments about Bloom being overused. Oh man. The original Xbox era where there was just, you needed sunglasses to play because everything had Bloom. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT has given us. Applies facility-based scenario modifiers using facilities available in the current track. Correct. If the scenario occurs on a coordinate containing a facility, that facility's local modifiers. No, that's not correct. It's not just local modifiers. Many facilities modifiers are applied. Otherwise, a random available facility is selected, and its shared modifiers are applied instead. That is correct. Once a facility contributes modifiers to a scenario, it is marked as unavailable. That is correct. And these are all fine. Scroll down. Applies the relevant modifiers from the facility to provide a scenario. Correct. Local modifiers are used when the scenario occurs directly at the facility. Otherwise, the facility's shared modifiers are applied. If the scenario occurs directly at the facility, and the facility has no local modifiers, its shared modifiers are applied. And that's a key thing. Can't be missing that, otherwise that's a huge chunk of functionality that's getting skipped over. And otherwise, the facility's shared modifiers are applied. There we go. Let's clarify this a little bit. Otherwise, if the scenario does not occur at the facility, its shared modifiers are applied. The facility is marked as unavailable. Then, the facility is marked as unavailable. Just neatening that up. Okay. So lastly, resolves the scenario modifier by identifier and applies it to the scenario. The modifier briefing text is prefixed with a facility display name to indicate the source of the effect before being attached to the backing scenario. If the modifier identifier cannot be solved, if error is logged and no modifier is applied, that's all good. It's all good. Now we need to add our signatures. So first we need to say, when was this added? And this was added in version 51. We also need to log who the author was. And that's moi. That's good. And you might wonder, why am I doing this? And it's just basically a way of attributing blame in the event that something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong years into the future, where either I'm no longer with the program or the method's been modified by loads of different people over time, it's always useful to know who was the original author, and therefore who to go to if you're looking for authorial intent, like the actual intention of the code. Now, there is a thing here. The original version, dang it, Past Illiani, why'd you do this? Exactly. Past Illiani is responsible for all MekHQ's bugs. Now, what we're going to do, however, we're going to have a look at the original code, because there was a thing so that scenarios wouldn't always. There we go. There we go. So this code here determines the chance. Oh, I shouldn't have closed that. Give me a second. Jump to source. Doesn't necessarily always trigger. So let's do that up here. So I don't like that we're checking if it's visible. So rather than determining if it's visible and then rolling the dice, we're just going to go ahead and roll the dice. So, what do we call this? We're going to call this facility modifier chats. And it looks like 4. And we can do a random int. If 4 equals 0, because random int runs between 0 and the max value minus 1. So random int 4 will run between 0, 1, 2, 3, not 4. So if random int is 0, no, if random int is not 0, that means there's a 3 in 4 chance of the scenario triggering. I don't like that. We're going to go one better. Just try and think. Is that correct? So that can be 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1. There we go. So now, rather than a scenario, if a scenario is revealed, it previously had a 100% chance of influencing the scenario. If the facility was revealed, beg your pardon. If the facility wasn't revealed, it had a 75% chance. Now what we do is we just have a global 50% chance per scenario, but each facility can only influence one scenario per week. So if you have 7 scenarios, roughly 3.5, and 7 facilities, roughly 3.5 scenarios each week will have facility modifiers. And I think that's a reasonable chance. Now, what would be a really good thing to do? Make it a campaign option. And then that way, players can say themselves how frequent they want facility modifiers. Potentially turning them off entirely. In fact, let's future-proof this. So, if facility modifier chance is greater than 1, and this is going to tell me that it's always true, but we're going to change this later so it won't always be true. But if facility modifier chance is greater than 1, and the facility modifier chance is actually, let's just think about this. King Miles says, is this specifically applying to hostile facilities, or does it also apply to friendly facilities? It also applies to friendly facilities. That's a good point, because you should have the opportunity to have an enemy facility and a friendly facility apply to the same scenario. That's a very good point, King Mao. Let's break out of what we're doing right now. Boop. And let's go back to let's rethink. King Mao says, how does it work with stuff like the facility that adds extra support work points? That facility does not apply modifiers to scenarios, so would not be affected by this. See, how easy is it? Is allied? Is owner allied to player? Okay. Okay, so we need to do a couple of things here that are going to change how this is used slightly. So right now we have available facilities. We're going to change that. We're going to still have a map for StratCon, chords, and all that good stuff. I should just copy this across. So some of you may have heard the story before of how I used order awards to accidentally delete half of people's campaigns. And we're using the lesson learned there here. So the lesson is when you pass an array into a method, you are passing that array into the method. You are not passing in an instance of that array. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pass in all facilities. We're going to pass in available enemy facilities, and we're going to pass in available allied facilities. Now this is going to complain at us. We're going to fix that. Let me just double check that I got the order of the methods correct. Boop. Allied and an enemy. Allied and an enemy. So what this means is because we're passing in this array, we can actually edit this array inside of this method. So if facility is available, if facility is owned by allied or to the player, that means it's an allied facility. So available allied facilities. Boop. If it's neutral, or the enemy, we just want available enemy facilities. Don't need that anymore. So why are we doing it this way? It means A, we only have to have the one method, and B, it means we don't need to run this loop, this looping through all the facilities multiple times. We just loop it through it once, and we're just partitioning everything into the right place. There we go. So let's jump ourselves back up to here. So we have determined then all the allied facilities and all the enemy facilities. But here's a thing. This means that if you attack an enemy facility, you cannot get an allied facility modifier. Similarly, if the enemy attacks you, they can't get an enemy modifier, which that's not good. But we have access to local facility. So So we can work with this. First, we're going to handle allied facilities. So, copy this up here. Call this allied facility modifier chance. Because if we're in a campaign operation, we might as well have a separate value for allied facilities and enemy facilities. It's going to have success. Should just call this auto fail. So, if allied facility modifier chance equals 0, then it's automatically going to fail. Now it's going to say that it can't equal 0, but this is again we're prepping for the future. If the allied facility modifier chance equals 1, however, then it's always going to succeed. So here we go. First, we need to verify it is not auto fail. I can't spell apparently. Or two fail. X2 Brutus. So first we're going to check is it that isn't auto fail. Then it either can be auto success or the facility roll. That's simple enough. Now I'm fairly certain we can duplicate some of this, but for right now this works enough. So we need to check have we already applied a facility modifier. So is local facility is owned by ally or the player. So then we're going to do stuff. If it is not owned by the ally to the player or the player themselves, then we're going to do allied stuff. Let's just facility modifier chance. There we go. All right. Now we can absolutely rake this out because these two are effectively identical. This, however, is where it's going to be different. So how about we create ourselves a new method, and we will say roll for facility modifier. And do we want to replace this occurrence in all of us? Yes, please. Now, this is doing available factions. We don't actually need available factions to return anything anymore. Allied needs to be enemy. And that needs to be that. This isn't right. We're going to need to address this in a second. What we're going to address first is we're just going to remove the return value from get available factions. And we're going to change that to filter available facilities. Just pop down here. I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to say it's going to return a void. Because rather than returning a value, we're now just modifying these two arrays directly. So what's the mistake we've made here? Basically, the issue we're facing is that this assumes there is a local facility. So, I'm going to pop up here. I'm going to do some more work. The youngster says, I've got to head out to work, but just wanted to say that watching your work has been super interesting, helping with my own learning. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And anybody else who's enjoying themselves, if you haven't already, consider hitting the follow button. You'll get notified when we go live, and you can enjoy us breaking MekHQ together. When do we stream? We stream four days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's daytime streams for the live development. And then Friday evening, so tomorrow night, we have the Scrotorious Bastards, our ongoing MekHQ campaign. You can find out the exact times, filter for your time zone, down in the scheduling section. Youngster says, you're also surprisingly not insulting good streamer for doing it for the first time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It turns out, all I need to do is just keep talking. And as anybody who knows me in real life will know I don't need any encouragement there. Okay, so we need to determine if we actually even need to roll. So let's do some conditionals. First, roll for allied, and roll for enemy. Okay, so roll for allied, we want to roll for ally if local facility equals null, or local facility is not owned. And down here, we're going to roll for the enemy facility if local facility is null, or why is that always saying it's going to return true? It's not always true, though. Have we got another conditional here that I haven't spotted? Okay. So if we're getting to this point, the local facility was null. So we need to check if the local facility is not null. Okay, I think I see what I need to do. I need to move these up. So we're going to start with our assumption that we always need to roll allied and enemy. Then we're going to remove this return. Boop. And if local facility is allied, we're going to boop away roll for allied. Else, we're going to boop away roll for enemy. Now we're going to scroll down here. We're going to filter the available factions, and if available allied factions is empty, we're also going to boop away allied. Because there's no point in processing if there's literally nothing in there. And we can probably clean this up, and it probably will. For right now, we're just trying to get the code to a place where it's functioning. Okay. So, if roll for allied is true, do the roll for allied stuff. If roll for enemy is true, we're going to do the enemy stuff. No, here's the simplification. If roll for allied is true, and available allied is not empty, and if roll for enemy is true, and available enemy is not empty, and that get rid of all this bump up here, making it a little bit neater. So this is the line here where we'd get the campaign option. Roll for facility modifier down here, but we need to have the actual roll. So facility roll. It's random int allied facility modifier chance. If 0, and 0 is effectively a roll of 1. We use 0 because it's the only value that we're guaranteed to have. So this up here can be anything, but it will always have 0 and a 1 chance of having 0. So if you change this to 10, it's effectively saying 1 in 10. We can do some further things. If facility roll, if facility chance, the problem is if facility modifier equals, I believe I know for certain if it's 0, it's going to completely break the random integer. It completely smashes it. I believe we have it as just 1. It will pass through correctly, but I will need to test that. If allied facility modifier chance equals 0, no, this needs to be doesn't equal 0. So we're going to make sure we're not going to run into any errors here. So we're not attempting to roll until we've validated that it doesn't equal 0. And again, it's going to tell me that's always going to be true, but it's not always going to be true because we're going to change it later. Also add an additional conditional here. If it equals 1, we're just going to return 0. There we go. So if this equals 1, it's always going to return true. If it equals anything other than 1 and not 0, it's going to return the random number. And down here, we just need to change some of the things to enemy. And again, these are very, very similar. So how about we try and see if we can break them out at all? What does roll this facility modifier do? Wrong button. Let's go back to this. What are we doing here? Oh god, that's not breaking it. Okay, so this is where we're applying the logic that I've accidentally just repeated. Oy. That's okay. That's okay. So we don't need this anymore. This is what happens when I'm left alone. This is the kind of thing that you don't see when you see all these fancy new features just materialize in upcoming versions. You don't see all the times that I just do something incredibly stupid. There we go. Okay, so that's looking good. We can break this out. No, we can't. No, we can't break this out because we're going to need access to these later. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, so let's get this Java doc updated and the others added. Okay, that's just processing in the background. I'm not going to flip this over to Safari because I don't think anybody's particularly interested in seeing ChatGPT write documentation. Oh. But we're actually making... I'll be honest with you, we are making significantly better time than I was expecting. I was expecting this to be a much bigger issue than it's turned out to be. So there's a good chance, knock on wood, there's a good chance this feature will actually be done today. And then we have some other options. I'll have to figure out. We might have to pick up something small. I'm anticipating the spit and polish project, the one that I'm doing at the moment where we're just going through and finding all the niggling, annoying things and addressing them. I'm anticipating that's probably going to be done by the end of next week. At that point, we are going to be switching to the really tedious part of just walking through the bug queue. Tedious but essential. And you're going to see me doing lots of little things there, but I think it'd be interesting for you all to see the process we take to figuring these bugs out. Radar says completing a feature in one day is always nice. Yes. Yes, it is. Let's see, is ChatGPT done? It is. I really don't like ChatGPT. And again, I'm not anti AI. I just don't think ChatGPT is particularly good. I definitely enjoy Copilot specifically for code reviews because it's embedded into GitHub. That has saved us a lot of trouble. Yeah, look at this horse shit. That's not explaining anything. Okay, let me use my backup method. Give me 2 seconds because I am not putting up with... If I'm forced to use AI, and I'm not really forced, but if I'm having to use AI for documentation, I actually want the documentation to be good. Here we go. And again, I like to use ChatGPT, no, not ChatGPT, I like to use AI for my documentation just because it gives me another look into the code. And even though what I'm using now is probably the better of the bunch, and that's the one that's embedded into IntelliJ, I am still going to go through it. We're still going to verify I think it's correct. Radar says you want the documentation to be human readable. I do. And here's the thing. I don't just want the documentation to be human readable. I like being forced to reassess what the code is doing in a new light. And like I said before, if I see something that the AI is documenting that doesn't work how it should, it just gives me another opportunity to spot mistakes. Facility to local shared modifiers applied, no additional. This is all correct. That's all correct. Do. Aha. It's suggesting that we rename this param, which we absolutely should. There we go. There we go. This is good. This is good. Okay, so that's done. Do we have any tests we need to run? Because testing StratCon is a bit of a pain in the bottom. Because there's just so many moving parts. But I think this should be good. If this is good, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and make the campaign option. Usually I make the campaign options first, but I didn't think about campaign options until we got to this point. We do need to commit this, and that's we just changed. And I'm not always good at this, but something you want to try and do is have each commit do one thing. Now, technically, one facility modifier per scenario isn't strictly true because you can have one allied and one enemy. But it's effectively true. So I'm gonna go grab some more water while these tests are running. So I will be right back. Boop. Change over to that. I won't be long. But if you haven't had any water for a while, drink more water. It's good for you. And I'll be right back. And I'm back. Told you it wouldn't be long. Now, you may hear in the background, not right now because she's investigating things, but you may hear clack, 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 clack. If that comes through on the microphone, I do apologize in advance. It is storming outside, and so I've let my doggies in. And Tiggly Von Wiggly Von Biggly Von Jiggly, that's her full government name, is very clacky. Aren't you, Tiger? You're very clacky, yes. Tiger, as I say, her full name is Tiggly Von Wiggly Von Biggly Von Jiggly, is our Great Dane. She's a rescue. She was treated horrifically by her original owner. And so her original owner broke her jaw and her hip, and neither fully healed. And so she just clacks around. She can't quite walk properly, and I have to help her stand up sometimes. But I brought her in because she loves water, but she does not love the rain. And so she's just curled up in my office right now, enjoying the fact that she's inside. Isn't that right, Tiggles Von Wiggles? She's ignoring me. She's upset at me because I'm not on the couch, which means she can't snuggle me. Let's give her a fuss. There we go. She also can't go on the dog bed because one of our cats has claimed the dog bed, and the cat will beat the dogs up if they try and take it off her. And we've got the other dog in, Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear is also a rescue, though. His story is not quite as terrible. We got him as a puppy. Radar says, "You're not on the couch or in the bed, so I can't snuggle the love out of you." Exactly. Tiger would be perfectly happy me petting her until one of us died, preferably me. She is a very jealous dog. I can't pet any of our other dogs without Tiger inserting herself so that I pet her instead. Mr. Bear is our other dog. He's currently finding the couch free and enjoying the fact that he gets the entire couch to himself. We have two Shiba Inus, Conan and Sonia, and they are in their kennel because Tiger does not get on with Sonia at all. And Conan and Sonia, they really like to be outside, and Conan in particular gets stressed out really, really easily. So when they're inside, they just stay in their kennel. They're both rescues. We rescued those from a puppy mill where they were treated terribly. And that's the reason behind Conan's anxiety. But you're not here to hear the sad stories about my canine friends. We're here to break MekHQ. Let me have some water and get back to that. And I also got the fantastic news that I won't be the one cooking tonight. Radar says people who treat pets terribly need to be pistol whipped at minimum. Indeed. I'm not going to say my opinion on the matter because I will be demonetized on YouTube if I haven't already. I mean, okay, let's be brutally honest. I run the Scrotorious Bastards and put them up on YouTube. There's no way I'm getting monetized. But I also don't want to be kicked off Twitch, so I will not say what I think about people who treat their pets poorly, especially dogs and horses, because we don't deserve dogs or horses. We absolutely deserve cats. And the cats will make sure we know that. So, back to what we're actually working on. Let's go make some campaign options, shall we? Now, the first thing I want to do is, I just need to figure out where we want the campaign options. I have a general idea, but it's a lot easier to figure out where you want to place the options when you can actually look at them in front of you. So let's go over to MekHQ. I've mentioned this before, but campaign options 2C, which is what you're seeing in a second. That was my first ever UI project, and the whole campaign options 2C project, that was a lot of work. Because it wasn't just a case of implementing it and designing it. That's the faction standing one was very much like we just implement it and design it's fine. With campaign options, we had so many developmental dead ends. And it was just so hard to work with, because you think there's close to 400, if not more than 400 discrete options in campaign options. It was really hard, not just filling it all in, but also making it in such a fashion that it actually looks legible. You can actually find your way through it. And finding our way through it was actually one of the problems that we had when we first unveiled it to the community, players were so used to the old campaign options, and I personally do not think the old campaign options were both well laid out, but players had gotten used to it, and so they had a hard time figuring out where individual campaign options were. So I think we're going to go into, where's our digital GMs? Where have we got facilities? Random modifiers. Okay, so we now know roughly where we want it to be. We want it to be in random modifiers. So we can grok. And again, grokking is just finding your way. And grokking is a term that has existed for decades at this point. It has to have done. But it's where the grok AI got its name from. Boop. Oh, we can't boop this. We have to find it manually. So we now know whereabouts in the campaign options 2C we need to put the stuff. Let's go to the actual campaign options themselves. Writing a campaign option comes in 5 stages. First is adding it to campaign options class. Then you need to add it to the loader, add it to the saver, add it to campaign options 2C, and then you can implement it into the actual systems. So let's find something that's close by. Scenario mod max, that seems good. There we go. So let's say allied facility modifier die size. That's what we're going to implement first. And by default, we're setting it to 2. Now, I don't know if it's coming across on stream, but my computer chugs. Campaign options is so large that my computer just chugs trying to run it. If I'm not making dinner tonight, I might stream for a little bit longer. Radar says, you know, a lot of the Clan 2C mechs are all pretty good, but the one 2C mech I don't like is the stock 2C Jenna. It's too focused on missiles. The one I don't like is it the Rifleman 2C? The one that has the radar dish. Yeah, and I'm not very good at like identifying what mechs are good. I'm very much a feels-based person. But the Rifleman 2C, I just do not like the look of it. Tira says the Glass Spider Galahad Rifleman 2C. Yeah. I think Rifleman 2C is the one I'm thinking of. I don't remember the Glass Spider looking particularly bad. That's that all set up. We're also going to want enemy facility. And again, enemy facility, we're just going to set that to default to 2. I'm starting to wish I'd had a bigger lunch before I started streaming. I'm getting a little bit hungry. Here it says the Rifleman 2C is disgustingly good because clan large pulse lasers are disgustingly good. I just had myself a little cough there, so I muted myself. Yeah, I get like that the mech is good. There's definitely no disagreement there. I just don't like it. Why is that showing an error? Why are you showing an error? Can I resolve it? Ah, I see. We've got the extra curly bracket. It's a funny little sombrero boy. It really is. PS359 says, yeah, the issue is that the BV is lower than it should be. This is supposed to be fixed in the next year or so. Yes, I am very much looking forward to BV 2.5. It only matters in PvP games. For MekHQ, it's not a huge deal. Yeah, for MekHQ, we don't strictly use BV to balancing anymore. We moved away from that. Not everybody's in agreement that that was a good thing. But that's why we have options. You don't have to use the alternate BV valuing. I'm a firm believer in allowing our players to craft the experience they want. Kira says they always up the difficulty. Yeah, the biggest limiter is that Princess comes down to. Princess can only scale up so much, but once you get to a certain point in your campaign, Princess is no longer going to be a threat. Our difficulty scaling specifically for scenarios is purely based on how much BV Princess gets access to. So that is our campaign options set up. So let's go back to this one. And we are going to have to do a spinner. And spinners are annoying because you have to enter in a bunch of extra information. You can't just add in what you want. We've deleted something accidentally. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. I'm just put it in the wrong place. Okay. So that should be a label, and that should be a J spinner. Still on the options screen? Thank you kindly. There we go. Apologies for that. Spinners are actually the biggest pain in the ass to implement because you have to implement two separate objects for them, the label and the spinner itself. Because unlike checkboxes have a label built in, spinners don't. You also need to specify a bunch of stuff. We can do that. So the default value, we want it to be 2, minimum 0. Maximum 10. 10 seems like a good ballpark. We do need to add it. First things first, we're going to move the existing options down. And we're going to add in our new options. That's all adding in nicely, blah, 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 blah. And here's the part where it actually applies it to the campaign. Oh no, this is the mouse listener. There we go. So this mouse listener is what handles the bit where you hover over an option and it shows it at the top. Which I do think was a very cool thing, but man, it required some 4D chess to implement. Okay, so that's that handled. We are now going to add the other option, which is allied. Campaign option 2C is also why, when it comes to working on the new character builder, I went out of my way to make a wizard that I've shown previously on stream, to make a wizard to create the life paths, so we weren't having to sit and manually edit a whole bunch of stuff like we're having to do here. But Campaign Options 2C is a significant improvement. I've mentioned this on stream before, but the way things used to work, because Campaign Options is such a core piece of MekHQ, and because it had been touched by so many different people over the decade, and MekHQ's been around, there just was a lot of different systems that all allegedly were doing the same thing, but effectively were just different ways to achieve that goal. And it meant anytime that you wanted to add a campaign option, you had to first figure out, how was this part of campaign options handling it? And that was one of the goals. Just checking I've got everything right. One of the goals when it came to developing Campaign Options 2C was just to make sure that we made it easier on developers. And as I say, we achieved that goal to a point. Writing for Campaign Options 2 is easier than it used to be. We can definitely make it easy and easier though. But we simply just don't have that option. Okay, so now we've done that, we now need to handle the text. So we're going to do that by going to Campaign Options dialog. We're going to find. Now something else we need to do, because I forgot, is go to rule set. We need to specify that this is a new option. Do this like this. So it is get metadata, new version, and then we add in the version that we we add in the version that we added this. And what this will do is it's just going to go ahead and add the iconography that shows that it's a new version. If you remember, you get little stars next to the new options. This just does that for us. We used to have to manually enter it in, but now it does it all automatically. That was PsychoMonkey that did that for us. So how are we doing one-ins? That's how I was just trying to verify exactly how we were handling this. And essentially, the allied one is exactly the same, but allied. We did, however, forget we need to add label to the front because it's a label. Okay, so that should all be set up. We're now going to relaunch MekHQ. And if you're very lucky, I'm going to remember to switch to it. While we're waiting for that to load, if you're listening at home, following along with us, and you're enjoying yourself, consider hitting the follow button. Means you'll get notified whenever we go live. We go live for live dev streams 4 times a week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And those are our daytime streams. And then Friday evening, so tomorrow evening, mark it in your calendars. We are continuing our ongoing MekHQ campaign. We are playing the Scrotorious Bastards, a Rasselhaig house unit that is building up in the 5 years before the clan invasion. We're going to build up to see how far we can get and then fight the clans. So now we're in MekHQ. So Pinky Bully, if you have a look on Twitch, you'll find underneath this video there will be a schedule section. If you flip over to tomorrow, or it might show it right now, but if you flip over to it, it will actually show you the time adjusted for your time zone. It is evening for me, but that's not necessarily the case for you. In fact, we're waiting for campaign options to load. Let me switch over to Safari, and I can show you. Boop. So if we go, it's going to show you to my channel. Found it, excellent. Well, I'll just show, I'm here anyway, so I might as well show the rest of you. Let me just mute this, because otherwise it's going to have my voice coming through. So if you go down to, is it going to show me? Here we are, schedule. Boop. So it's not below the video, it's back on the home page. You see here, it's just adjusted it to my, so this is the one we're talking about here, the ongoing MekHQ campaign, and that will adjust automatically to your time zone. PS359 says, oh wait, so when are the Scrotorious Bastards returning to action? They are returning to action tomorrow. Tomorrow evening. Yeah, no, the first episode went surprisingly well. Against all rights. It had no right to go as well as it did. If anybody who joined us would have known, oh no, we had no right to succeed as well as we did. But we did, and that's always nice. Now the thing is, if you ever miss a stream, be it these dev streams, or be it one of the wonderful Scrotorious Bastards weekly episodes, you can catch them all on YouTube. There should be a link somewhere on this Twitch that will take you to the YouTube channel. Feel free to give it an old subscribe. But, yeah, this all seems to work nicely. Just check the tooltips are working. It's got the options. There we go, that's nice and good. PS359 says, great, we'll get to see if Klaus Odin's Soderstrom's run of luck can continue. Yes. If we're lucky, we might even be able to level up Flash Fried, the real hero of the campaign. Okay, so that's the campaign option stuff. It's all set up. So let's go back to IntelliJ. Boop. So we've set up the campaign options. That's great and all. But we should save it. We've got a bit of a Jamaican flair in the song. PS359 says, hey, is that one of my 7.7 pilots? Flash Fried is the best 7.7 pilot. Flash Fried saved the campaign. She saved the campaign by just getting constantly shot at, but she survived and she's a hero. We even pinned a medal on her to show how much we appreciate her distraction. Okay, but now we have campaign options. Can we access campaign options from within here? Let's find out. Okay, yes. Okay, get campaign? Ooh. So that means we are going to need to pass campaign in. That's fine, we can work with that. We're only using this in one place. And I'm reasonably confident we got access to campaign here. We do. Do we have access to campaign options? We don't. Okay, that's fine. We can give ourselves access to campaign options. Okay, so that's going to fetch our instance of campaign options. And because we don't want to have to pass in all of campaign options if we only need 2 things. So let's go ahead and just grab what we need. So here's a clever thing we can do. What we've done here is we just fetched the necessaries. King Mel says she caught a PPC blast in her hand and was mostly unscathed. Yeah, no. If you haven't had a chance to catch last week's episode, you'll have a time after this stream. Just head over to the YouTube, it's there already. Flash fried. It is not an exaggeration. Flash fried the 7-7 pilot saved the campaign. But here's a fun thing we can do. Now we want to add these params to this method, but we don't have to like fiddle back and forth. So what we do is we can highlight this and we can tell it to add it. Boop. And now it's automatically added. We can do it to the other one. Boop. Now again, the reason why we're doing this here is because campaign options is huge. We do not want to have to transfer the entire instance of campaign options when we just need 2 integers. So we're only passing in those integers. And down here, we can just get rid of these placeholders. And now we'll use the values in campaign options. Seems we had a mistake down there, but that's okay. Heck. There we go. So that's all done. We now integrated the campaign options. Frida says, don't forget about the dislocated shoulder she got from her injection. She actually got a compound fracture. That means the bone's sticking out. PS359 says, that's a meme, right? I'm not sure I follow. I am not down with the cool kids. Okay. So let's take a break to collect ourselves. We have now implemented the system that will cause a scenario to only ever get affected by a single allied and a single enemy facility. However, we have 2 more steps. One, we are applying the exhaustion to the facility. So we're setting it to false here. So we are doing that. But we do still need to... Yeah, we still need to refresh it. So on Monday, we need to unexhaust them. So for that, we need to go to Campaign New Day Manager. Campaign New Day Manager. Alrighty. So what I'm trying to do now is figure out where we're refreshing all the StratCon stuff. Looks like here's good. Where are we? Are we looping through? So this is just processing a new day. So this is processing a new day of the month per contract. So this is kind of what we're looking for. So this happens on the 1st of the month. Do we have any accessing on daily events? This could work. Is Monday. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just check. It's Monday. We're going to do a thing. Now we're doing 2 things here that both rely on StratCon campaign state. So rather than questioning its campaign state null twice, I'm going to do it once and just wrap both in. So first we need to get tracks. So tracks are sectors in the UI. PS359 says, okay, yeah, it seems compound fracture means the bone has met air, though that can happen via the bone moving or an intrusion. Yeah. Yeah, no, compound fractures are pretty nasty. Okay, so we can get all facilities. Alrighty, okay, so we're gonna need to do multiple loops here. So first, we need to loop through each track state in tracks, and then we need to get all facilities. Ooh, we have a method update facilities. Interesting. Oh, and that's not what we're looking for, sadly. We do need to get all facilities. So track state, get facilities. And we're just going to initialize that. Whoop. And for each facility, is it a StratCon facility? Yes. We need to change it to set is available to true. So what this is going to do is any facilities that previously exhausted themselves on Monday will become available again. We can absolutely break this out though. Call it refresh StratCon facilities. And here's the thing, if we're only needing to access tracks from the StratCon state, we don't need to pass in the whole state. We can just pass in the return value of StratCon, get tracks. Just helps keep things a little bit neater. Now, this is something you can do. I don't like it. I like to have external variables and pass those in instead. It makes testing easier, and it just, I find it personally easy to pass. Okay, so that handles that. So let's think. What was our objectives? A StratCon facility can only affect one facility per week. We've done that now. And a StratCon facility can only affect, a scenario can only be affected by one StratCon facility per week. We've done that. So we're actually done. There's still like an hour and 40 minutes left on the stream. We're done. Let's go test it, but we're done. That took significantly less time than I was expecting. And something to keep in mind as well, if you're ever seeing something I'm doing and you have any questions, you think it can be done a little bit differently, absolutely speak up. Definitely don't feel like you can't ask questions here. Here it says, just a quick major project between streams, just a little one for the memes. The reason why this went so quickly largely boils down to the fact that I have become really familiar with StratCon, and so I was able to mentally plan what steps I needed to do before we embarked. This easily could have taken a lot longer. Alrighty, so it's 86 days, off we trot. Kira says they need to mentally steel myself to go out onto their balcony and clean their son's murder. Wish them luck. Good luck. Tiris is not a fan of birds, and one of their cats decided to embark on that cat-like tradition of murdering birds. Okay, so we know we have one facility here. What we're going to do, we're going to advance day. We're going to check this all frontline, okay. We're actually going to go ahead and we're going to change the enemy morale to overwhelming, and that's going to massively increase the chance of us getting a new scenario. So let's advance day. We're going to exit out of here. Actually, we don't need to exit out of here, we can just go back to IntelliJ. We're going to check the save. We're going to make sure the one facility that's there is set up correctly. So let me just find the save and drag it in. This looks promising. And we're just looking for is available. Okay, so we have one facility and it is currently available. We are going to go into campaign options, switch back to MekHQ. Feisman says, my mighty hunter removes mice, then places it on the corner of the rug outside my bedroom. Our cats are thankfully indoor cats. On the odd chance we get a mouse, they resolve the situation swiftly. So here we're just going to quickly change it so that we're guaranteed to get the scenario modifier. Now I think this scenario is currently hidden. I think if we deploy a force now, this should trigger the facility. Let me just see. This might not work, but we can check. Go ahead. Go away. Let's see. Artillery base. Okay. So now if we advance day, we're going to advance to Tuesday. And if we open and save back up, if everything is working, and that is always a big F, if everything is working, this currently says true should now equal false. It equals true. So that means somewhere we're not setting it correctly, because the facility has done it's activated, so it should now be equal false. That's okay. So now we're going to have to close out of MekHQ because we need to update the code. We need to identify why it's not showing. Weissman says, indoor cats, yes. Disposes of her own kills, no. We do toss the remains to the egg depositing diners. Yeah, we recently added a pair of mated turkeys to our flock of chickens. I say our flock of chickens and one duck. Because one day a duck just roamed into our yard and decided it lived here now. Okay, so we know it's not quite working, and that's okay. Now, there could be a couple of options. There could be that there's a system somewhere that's bypassing this. So it could be that our changes aren't getting picked up because there's a secondary system. That can sometimes happen. It could also be that we're just simply not updating it. So get facility modifiers, that is where we're updating the facility. So facilities isn't empty, so we should be hitting it. So the way we're going to test this is we know right now that when we activated that particular scenario, it didn't pop. So we're going to go in and we're going to go in and we're going to go ahead and figure out if there's a secondary system at play. I think this is the okay. This is the save one. PS359 says, I seem to remember reading an article about that. They said that the cat isn't bringing you tribute, it just stashes its kills in a place in it that seems secure for later consumption. Yeah, I think there's a lot of theories around that. Feisman says that they have 6 chickens, and it's amusing watching them chase whoever claims the mouse trying to get it for themselves. Chickens are mean. Okay, so we know that right now, the hostile artillery base is showing as true. Cool. We know that when we deployed to the frontier assassination, it did give us a scenario, but the scenario was didn't claim the use of the facility. We're going to double check. We are set to overwhelming. Overwhelming is going to give us the biggest chance of getting a scenario. So let's advance to a new week and see if we can get ourselves a scenario. Go away. Close window. So what we're trying to do here now is just trying to get a natural scenario to spawn. And of course, it's not going to want to. That's just how it works. Whenever we want a scenario... Ooh, I wonder. Maybe the add a scenario, a StratCon scenario button might work. Boop. It did not add the modifier, so it may bypass that. It's potentially possible it might not be properly generated yet, so I'm going to double check that I have got... We're just going to check that I've got my settings set up correctly. There it is, waiting for that to load. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, so I bodged up the settings. Let me just go in and fix this. All right, let's try that again. Let's get rid of this scenario we don't really care about. Let's go away. Shoot. Pop ourselves a new scenario. Okay, so this has the artillery base. It's advanced day. Exit out of here. We don't need to exit. We can just go straight back to IntelliJ. I keep forgetting that. And let's see if that is doing what we need it to do. Okay. So the fact that generating the scenario this way flipped it to false, but deploying directly on top of the scenario did not. That tells me we have a secondary system that's overwriting our changes. So we're going to go and figure out what that is, but first we're just going to do one last check just to make sure that our system is working. So we're going to flip ourselves back to I think this is good. We'll know immediately if there's 2 scenarios. Okay. Yeah, so we need to go back further. Oh well, that's okay. Let's go back, let's take ourselves back to the 22nd. PS359 says, at any rate, what are you working on here? Some changes to specific missions? So what we're doing is we've finished the... Right, we say we finished. We've mostly finished the StratCon scenario facility fixes. We're testing them, basically. We're testing them, and we've identified that there may be 2 routes that StratCon takes to generate facility modifiers. So we're just testing that. Right now, it looks like there are, in fact, 2 routes to add facility modifiers. I just need to come in here and knock this back down to 1. So it's always guaranteed to spawn. Alrighty, so when we randomly generated a scenario, it got the hostile base and it exhausted it. So now, let's just do one last test. We're going to deploy here. And if this does not exhaust the hostile facility, that facility modifiers, yeah, that means that there is a second route. So if you're not aware, PS359, facilities are like bases in StratCon, and they apply modifiers to your scenarios. So for example, if we click on if we click on hostile base, it says hostile base will participate in scenarios on its track and defend this facility. So if you have a scenario, there's a chance that artillery will turn up. But what's happening here is interesting. So that didn't generate the facility. Let's go back into campaign options, make sure that's saving correctly. Because it could be that we mucked up the saving. That's possible. Okay, so that's correct. So there is definitely a second route to get here. So now we need to find it. Back to IntelliJ. Okie dokie. Well, seeing as we know that all facilities are most likely to call add scenario modifier, jumping to add scenario modifier should help point us in the right direction. Gonna take a bit of water. I'm looking down here, I'm just trying to find anything that seems right. So let's have a look at the differences we've got between this and main and see if that shines a light. What am I looking for? There we go. So let's close out all this stuff. StratCon facility. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I can literally just look and see every instance of the user StratCon facility. That's going to be tedious as all hell, but that will give us what we're looking for. There we go. So that's working out fighter modifiers. That's refreshing, that's the one we just made. Okay, that's setting up the facilities themselves. So that's not helpful. Now, the other option is it could just be that our code isn't working. I'm hoping that isn't the case. So that's deserializing. Another more likely route would be to have a look at where we're fetching shared modifiers. Because if we can find where we're fetching the modifiers, that might point us in the right direction. So where are we getting the shared modifiers? In 2 locations. Alrighty. So the only place that we're getting facility modifiers, at least shared modifiers, is there. Let's try this. Yes, it's all looking good. Where are we fetching it? Okay, so we have 7 uses for generate scenario. This is where we're adding, this seems to be the only place we're adding the facility modifiers. So if that is the case, why isn't it? here's the way we can check. So we're just going to add some breakpoints. We're going to launch it, and that's going to tell us if we're hitting this code at all. So breakpoints are a part of the debugging system. They tell the code to stop once it reaches the breakpoint. And what this is going to do is this is going to tell us if we're actually entering this method at all. And that's conclusively going to tell us that there's a secondary method somewhere. PS359 says, my wife was a farm girl. I remember laughing when at some Meet the Animals thing, she flipped a chicken in the air and let it flap down to the ground. The students working the animal thing just about lost their shit. Chickens are surprisingly fragile, incredibly hardy creatures. Like they die so easily, and yet at the same time are really hard to kill. They're a bit like pigeons, really. Okay, so let's deploy ourselves a force, and are we going to hit our breakpoint? We are not. Now, did I actually launch it correctly? I did. So we did not hit our breakpoint. Why didn't we hit our breakpoint? Let us kill MekHQ, and I wonder if it's defined at contract generation. So we're now going to relaunch MekHQ. This time we're going to create a brand new contract. And we're going to hope the contract's got a scenario. This might take a couple of efforts. And just while we're waiting for all that to load through, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the follow button. I'll allow you to keep updated as we continue our adventures to fix MekHQ's bugs and add wonderful new features. I'm sure many of you are aware we stream 4 live dev streams a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. And then Friday evening, that's tomorrow evening, we'll be doing our ongoing MekHQ campaign. And if you're unsure what times we stream, you can check the schedule on the main page of this channel, and that will automatically update to your time zone. And if you ever miss an episode, all VODs, video on demand, they're all available on YouTube. Let's make those that. Okay. So this is going to create some brand new contracts. Go away. About 2/3 of any project is running it through the mill and just trying to see what breaks. Oh, it helps if we actually have someone to deploy to our contracts. Let's just quickly fire off the company generator. Boop. And get told about all the babies that happened. I received a fun bug report earlier today. It turns out if somebody dies during surgery, in MekHQ I should say, you can actually continue doing surgeries on them, and there is no limit to how many wounds they get. Okay, so let's see which is the closest. 27, there we go. So let's just accept that. Recon raise, that hopefully will happen. Scenario. Okay, so now we've hit it. That tells me this is being determined when the contract is created, and that might be why. To show you jumping back to IntelliJ, here we are. So when we accepted the contract, that's when we hit this breakpoint, which may be why the existing contract in the learning ropes didn't have it. So let's just bypass these real quickly. And it's just going to hit it a couple of times as it's just generating any starting scenarios. Let's go back to MekHQ. So we're going to go ahead and travel to this contract, and we're just going to test everything. PS359 says, that's dark. I can't let them die. Doctor, we declared them dead 17 days ago. We can rebuild them. We have the technology, I think the quote is. Blah, 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 blah. Oh no! Captain, medical and intelligence data confirms that a biological weapon was deployed here prior to our arrival. Oh, that's dangerous. Lipton is currently affected by Redburn virus. Well... Oh no, is it going to tell us for every character? That's not good. Alrighty, that's a bug. I'll have to look at that. Oh, if we're fighting the clans, it seems. Okay, so do we have a facility? GM mode, go. We have a facility, and we have a scenario. So, if we deploy to this scenario, let's just double check the campaign options are saved. If we deploy to this scenario, we should have whatever bad guy that is. We'll figure that out in a second. Hostile industry. Okay. So let's just try this. So let's deploy, and it should have the modifier. Confirm. Commit. Briefing room. Why do you not have the modifier? Let's it may be that our random chance just is broken. Does it not have? Is it possible that this doesn't have a scenario modifier? Okay, it does. It does. There we go. All right. Well, we can test to see if it's broken at least. Okay, I'm going to head back to IntelliJ because something's very odd here. Because we didn't hit the facility modifiers at all. That's telling me that our conditionals are probably not working. Okay, so it is exhausting the facility. Wait, did I hit? I'm wondering if it doesn't matter. We're still going to go through here. So, if we're not using mapless, which we are not, we will always hit apply facility modifiers. I'm going to roll for allied and enemy. Let's see. That all seems good. So if we're rolling for allied, and available allied is an empty, we do that. If we're rolling for enemy, okay, we're doing that. If a facility modifier chance equals 0, we've auto failed, at which point we're going to not do that. We can do one better. If auto fail, let's just simplify this a lot. We're just going to return. And that allows us to break this out. let's add some breakpoints here. I want to see what we're hitting here. But we're also testing to see if it's empty. Are we not doing that up here? Yes, we are. Okay, so we don't need to test to see if it's empty here as well. What we should do is test to make sure that random facility isn't null. There we go. That's our protects us from a null point error. Okay, so let's go back into MekHQ, see if we can force this. Waiting for this to load on through. Actually feel myself getting a bit of a sore throat. It'll be very bad if I lose my voice by tomorrow. Alright, so we're going to have to open up a new campaign because we need to make sure that... Actually, we're going to load the last campaign. I want to test to make sure our variables are saving. So we can cancel out of that. Let's go to reload last campaign. For a second I thought, oh, I forgot to upload yesterday's VOD, but I think I already did. We didn't stream yesterday though. I actually remembered to upload the one earlier. This VOD will be available tomorrow morning on the YouTube and immediately after we're streaming on Twitch. Okay. Okay, so that is saving correctly. Good. Alright. Let's add a facility. Let's what we're going to do, we're going to delete these. Boop. And boop. On today. Go away. Alright. So we're going to get rid of this facility. Because then we can add a new one and this facility will be refreshed. I'm going to advance to a new week and hopefully get some scenarios pop up. PS359 says, AI is telling me that a mech war is suffering compound fracture like our hero, Flash Fried, is completely unlikely. It's a completely likely outcome of a botched detection. Yeah, no, it is. Okay, so we are hitting the breakpoint. And it's confirming that order success is correct. And it's also confirming that it's returning true here. But unfortunately I advanced past the scenario. It's fine, we should be able to still have a look to see if it had the modifier. It did have the modifier. So now we go back into IntelliJ, which I never left apparently. And we're going to go have a look at the autosave. I'm just going to make sure it's available. Now false. It is. Okay. Okay, it looks like we may have had a dodgy conditional. So what that means is we're now going to go and kill this contract. Goodbye, contract. Shoot. I'm going to go to the contract market. We're going to generate one. We're going to keep clicking until it actually generates one. There we go. Thank you. I'm going to accept that. And here we are. So it is returning. Everything's correct. Okay, good. Looks like we're getting a couple of scenarios out of this. That's fine. We don't mind that. All right, so let's switch over. Yes, go away. We need to do 33 days. The chat's talking about how a mech warrior might suffer a compound fracture. And to that, I have to say, it does seem in the BattleTech universe that the seatbelts seem to be lost tech. A bit like contraception in MekHQ, it just doesn't seem to exist anymore. Oh, we got a big map here. Oh, wow, okay. This is a busy one. What is this, a planetary objective raid, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 facilities. Wow, okay. Okie dokie. So let's start deploying to facilities. Boop. Not facilities, to scenarios. We're on the code screen. Oh, my bad. There you go. So we're just going to deploy here. I'm just going to see if the scenarios that spawn correctly have facility modifiers. PSP59 says they have contraception, they just don't use it because they're broody. Yeah, it's those long space flights. Tank base, yes. Mech base, yes. Tank base again. Do we have 2 tank bases? We do. We have 2 tank bases. Okay, we actually have 3 tank bases. Jesus Christ. So, for argument's sake, under the old system, if you had revealed all 4 of these facilities, what would have happened is every scenario that you generated, everyone would have an entire extra company of tanks and an extra lance of mechs. But with that, op success. Get rid of these break marks so I don't forget them. Comment that we fix the conditional. And this is going to significantly reduce the difficulty of contracts, stop them being just arbitrarily overwhelming. Ooh, well, that was fun. We've still got about an hour left on stream, so what I'll be doing next is I'll have a look at the other suggestions we've got from oh yeah, you'll have to forgive me by this time in the stream because I don't just work when I'm on stream. I'm usually working for hours. Like I get up around 7 o'clock, and then like the first hour is me just bumbling about, having my coffee and all that good stuff. But then pretty much after that, after I've done house chores, it's logging into MekHQ. So by the time we get to this point in the stream, I'm just getting a little bit tired. But every step we improve. Sometimes we even remember to change the scene to the right screen. And my tummy is rumbling away. My tummy is looking forward to 4 o'clock when I can have something to eat. Okay, so you all know this by now, but I'll tell you anyway. There are 3 things you need to include in any description. You need the problem, what you've done to solve it, and any ancillary information. So, So I know this isn't very interesting watching me just type and while I'm sitting in silence. Unfortunately, I can't type and talk at the same time. So we've identified we've identified the problem, and the problem is basically that the facility modifiers were just ridiculous. Especially, like, the more facilities you had, the worse it got. Now, the last line I just added there is not the most important, because player experience is the most important, but for balancing it is. So I've written that this process had a byproduct of increasing player salvage. So consider, under the old system, if you didn't destroy a base, it would always deploy forces to the scenario. So on the contract we just spawned, there were 3 tank bases and a mech base. That means if you found those facilities by scouting, but didn't destroy them, every scenario you went in would have an extra company of tanks and an extra lance of mechs. Now, if you were a good enough player or had the good enough equipment and you won those scenarios, that means every scenario would have its salvage increased by an entire company of tanks and an extra lance of mechs. Take that across an entire contract, take that across multiple contracts, and player progression is, if you can survive that kind of encounter, player progression is sped up, because there's literally nothing to stop you from just gathering up all that as salvage short of your own forces. And it leads into a situation where the player gets more money so they can get more things, so they can win more scenarios, so they can salvage more things, so they can get even more money. And it's one of it's the runaway progression that we have to be really careful of nowadays. It didn't used to be a problem, but now players have kind of gotten so good at the game that and the campaigns have gotten so big, it really is a problem. So here's the simple rules. A scenario can only be affected by one facility at any time, and a facility can only affect one scenario per week. And we'll just comment that it's refreshing already. Now there is some ancillary information to add here. So the first up is that facilities which don't add modifiers to scenarios, modifiers that are included in the briefing, are not affected by this. Let me just use an example of spaceports. And we're just going to comment that a separate counter It's used for allied and enemy facilities. Okay, so what else did we do? We also added some campaign options. Okay, and that's basically it. I'm definitely getting tired. StratCon, user experience. There we go. Tira says, thankfully I will no longer be haunted by allied artillery. You will be once per week. Weissman mentions that the scenarios are big that they've never noticed. Yeah, no, I have seen some of the scenarios Joker's stream gets. Yeah, no, this definitely needed to be nerfed. And the thing is, smaller scenarios means you can get more fights in a night. Like, if the scenarios are kept relatively small, you can kind of just get a couple extra fights in. But the next thing we need to do is we just need to notify, because we are really wanting to make sure that players are aware that we are working on the things that they're concerned about. So what I do is I'm just jump over to Discord. And if you haven't already, consider joining the MegaMek official Discord. You can find that in the links section below the video. And we're just letting folks know that we have addressed their concerns or that we're working on it. I'm just going to comment, this is quite a beefy one. And then we're just going to mention that we're going to leave it open for a bit. There we go. And my favorite part, we're just going to go and edit it. And just mark it as done. Sorted. Proper sorted. Anna says, don't look at my comment on the stream. I don't read DMs on screen. I don't check out any messages. It's just I only stay to channels I know I can. I learned that off my first stream when I accidentally showed the dev chat. So we're done. Like, that's actually really good. That's going to make life so much easier for players. Is there anything else we want to do? Okay, let's actually, I think I spotted one here. So what the user's saying here is that you can't remove people from being assigned to forces without moving everybody. And sometimes you want to remove the crew, but you don't want to remove the pilots. Now, this whole system that we use here, it is really gross. But I think this is a good one to pick on. Like, I'm hoping we can get this done in time. Tira says, you've gotten me to a stage in my life where I'm excited about MegaMek leaks. You fiends. You have no idea. Like, we had a meet. Oh, I have coffee left. I have coffee left, guys. It's happened. I didn't drink all of my coffee ration. Oh. And I got so excited to tell you that I just poured it all over myself instead. I can absorb coffee through osmosis, right? If I just suck it out of my t-shirt. Okay. Yeah. So we had a meeting of a good chunk of the senior devs yesterday, as well as a few contributors about some really cool stuff. Now, I I am not allowed to tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you about what's discussed. But and the thing we're trying to be really careful of, we don't want to announce big projects in case something happens. Like it's happened a couple of times in the past history. But like, while I can't tell you what was discussed, oh boy, if it all comes to fruition, if everything works, and everybody does their part and does what they said they would do, MegaMek players, we're gonna be eating well. We are gonna be eating so well. Hammer says, you mean the chat about the Tay-to-Tay integration? Oh, no, so Catalyst says we're not allowed to talk about Tay-to-Tay invasion. Catalyst says that that part of the upcoming storyline we're not allowed to discuss. So the Tay-to-Tay invasion is a bit of an in-joke between me and Hammer. Every time Hammer and I are discussing potential future CGL announcements, I always say it's gonna be Tro Tay-to-Tay every time. And one day, one April Fools, I will be correct and they will release Tro Tay-to-Tay. Alrighty. The furthest country here. Okay. So I am not wholly sure how possible it's going to be to fulfill the user's request. So what we're going to need to do first is a feasibility test. And what a feasibility test is, essentially I see what I need to do and I just see how easy it's going to be to do and whether it's possible. Now, feasibility tests generally aren't... oh, wow! Omnituans is raiding us with a party of 13 viewers. Thank you. So thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I am Illiani. I am one of the devs over in MegaMek, which is the digital digitization of the MegaMek, sorry, the BattleTech tabletop rules. It's an Omni raid. You're right, Yuki, and welcome to chat. And MekHQ, which is my ballpark, that is the campaign side of things. And what we're doing right now is we're trying to improve the user experience. We've just fixed some balancing issues with StratCon, if you're familiar, the campaign system. And now what we're doing is we're just going to try and make removing staff from units a little bit smoother. Because right now it's a bit of a pain in the bum. So we're just about to do a feasibility test. So if you haven't guessed already, this is one of the dev streams. Every week, 4 times a week, we do a stream where we show live development of the MekHQ game. And then on Friday evenings, that's tomorrow, you can check the schedule if you want to know when, we have our ongoing MekHQ campaign. We are playing the Rasselhaig Republic 5 years before the clan invasion. But let's go to the hangar. So right now, if you're wanting to remove staff from a vehicle, the process is this. You go to right-click, assign person, and an unassigned crew. Now, here's the problem. If you look in this column, this is assigned to, and this is who the pilot is, and this is who the tech is. When we've got an unassigned crew, we've actually unassigned both the pilot and the tech. And what the user's request is what are we building this in? We hate ourselves, so this is Java. MegaMek is something along the lines of 24 years old now, and Java was the new cool thing back when we started. And unfortunately, Java is no longer the cool new thing, but that's okay, because those of us working on MegaMek, we were never cool new things ourselves. We've never been cool. We work on MegaMek. There's no coolness here. But as I say, the user request was that they wanted the ability to right-click, go to assign person, and unassign just the staff, not the pilots. So let's see how well we can do that. So first of all, we're going to have a look at unassigned crew to see if we can maybe steal some of the code that's already there. Tira says they're radical. This is true. You're one of my followers, so really you're as cool as could be. Like, I don't think there's anybody cooler than someone who follows me. I don't know if my British sarcasm is coming through. So let's see here. So it looks like we have a simple method that just declares the crew. Let's see. How is this method working? So we're checking if the unit's deployed, we don't want to then just strip the crew away because that's going to break things. Okay, that makes sense. And here's the line. Here's the line that says remove tech. Now here's the thing. This method is only used 4 times. So what we're going to do, we're going to add in the Boolean, and this is a parameter, and we're going to say is remove tech. Now we're going to have to go ahead and update some other methods, but that's okay. And if we're removing the tech, we're going to remove the tech. We do also need to clear the engineer. That's a thing. Actually, I want to double check. Get engineer. So we have some weird stuff when it comes to engineers. Okay, so remove is going to reset the vehicle. That's good. That's what we want. Ooh, let's go back to there. So if we hit remove tech or remove person even, at that point we are going to reset the vehicle. That's good. That's what we want. So if we remove engineer, yeah, no, this works. This works. Okay. So now we just need to go through and update the instances where we're calling this. Now, thankfully, because there's only 4 instances, this isn't too bad. I might have to remove this first, though, so that IntelliJ knows where it's being called. There we go. So I'm just grabbing that, and then we're going to bump back in. So what we've done is just found all the instances where clear crew is being used. And here we are. This is the actual menu that we're looking at. But the thing is, we don't want to have to define where we're removing tech every time. So let's create an overload. And an overload is just where you have 2 methods that are identical, and you're just going to basically pass one into the other. So we're going to pass in clear crew, and it's going to be false, because what we're doing, we're having an overload of this method. So this version of clear crew doesn't include is remove tech. We're just going to assume that if you're calling this method of clear crew, you do want to remove the tech, pardon. So it's just going to automatically pass in true. And that means all other instances of clear crew will work exactly the same as they did prior to this change. So we don't have to go through the code base and update everything. Admittedly, it's just 4 calls, 4 instances where we're using this, but this way we can keep things confined. So let's think. This is where we've got the method here. So we're just going to want to add a new option here. Thinking. So for this version, we just need to check that the crew isn't empty. I'm going to call this, what do we call this? So first of all, we're going to call this unassign all crew. I'm just going to rename that method. So this will show up in the menu as unassign all crew. And we're going to call this one. I guess we could just call it unassign non-tech crew. Yeah, that makes sense. Jump back here. So those of you who've been following for a while will know that a lot of work is just bouncing from place to place and just making sure it's all working as it should. Not all coding is particularly exciting, but it's, in my opinion, it's always interesting. If we were a professional development team, you would have you'd have the good old junior devs. They would be slaving away in the basement somewhere, and you'd send a task like this. This would absolutely be a junior dev thing, because not only would it teach you, it just doesn't require a lot of skill, but it also helps you learn the code base. Now, these two blocks of code are very, very similar. We're going to see if we can maybe break them out. But first, we're going to see if it works. So we're going to reboot MekHQ. Let's have a bit of a stretch, ease out my shrimp spine, and enjoy a little bit of the coffee, because I was very happy to discover that I actually still had coffee left. That's nice. I've mentioned a few times on stream before, but unfortunately, my new medication, which is, and I do want to emphasize this, is nothing to be concerned about. It's just new medication. My new medication is, it makes me very sensitive to coffee. And so, alas, I'm only allowed my one coffee a day. Sure, my coffee ration. How is everybody doing? I know we've been streaming for a good few hours now, and I imagine if you're anything like me, you're getting a little bit tired. I hope you all have fantastic evenings planned. Maybe, if you're able to, spend a bit of time with your family. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. That's always important. Okay, so let's go here as assign person, and we're going to unassign non-tech crew. So what should happen here is that the column here should remain the same. So it should be emptied, and the tech column should remain the same. Radar says, boyfriend is making dinner tonight. Pasta. Ooh, what kind of pasta? I absolutely love pasta. There we go, it works. Tyrus says they've got to cook it a bit. They're recovering from bird shock. So, for those unaware, Tyrus is not a fan of birds, and one of their wonderful cats decided to murder a bird and just leave it there for Tyrus to deal with. So we can see single crew, mechs, that's working. So let's have a look at tanks. Now I know the BattleTech recovery vehicle has multiple crew, but let's just check to make sure that's working correctly. So assign non-tech crew. There we go. Now the last thing I want to try is the foot squad down here, because foot squads have their crew is their tech. So see what happens if we do this. See if it absolutely breaks. It doesn't. Okay, cool. So at that point it works. I was expecting that to take a lot longer than it did, but that's what we like. We like it when the option just works. Also, I realize in typical fashion, I have forgotten to change to MekHQ. I'm terribly sorry. I'm very new at this. I've only been streaming, like this is my second week of stream ever. And I keep forgetting that I need to change scenes when I change window in my computer. So I do apologize. But I'm sure you're having a great time seeing our air brackets wonderful code. So as I said before, we're done, but we can make things nice, because we always want to leave the code in a nice place for the next person. And we can absolutely. Radar says we need to get Illiani a streaming deck. I have no idea what those are. I will say this is the first time we have a raid. Now a raid, I do know what a raid is. I still haven't worked out what a hype train is. I think it gives you guys, like we had one the other day, I think it gives you guys free emotes. But I don't know if I need to set up the free emotes to give you. I need to Google these things. I'm terrible. I'm so new at this. But what I'm not new at is cleaning up code. So let's break this method down. We're going to try and convert these two blocks here, this block here, this block here, to a single method that allows us to just have code in one place. Pink Billy says, can you not have the stream open in a pop-up window or similar on the second monitor? I do. The problem is I have to manually click to the new stream. Here's actually, let me set something up very, very quickly. I can show you exactly what the issue is. It's going to take a couple of seconds. You're going to get a black screen very briefly while I quickly change things over. Just bear with me, and I'll show you the issue. So if I go to OBS, so OBS is the software that I use. Are you going to show OBS? Am I on the right scene? Have I accidentally told it to not show OBS? There we go. Okay. So the issue I have is when I'm in OBS, this is my screen. So this is my second monitor. I have chat with all you lovely, wonderful people. I have alerts so that if one of you follows or anything, I can get notified in case my notifications fail. Usually notifications are just in this corner here. However, to change from OBS, from one screen to the other, it's this column down here. So if I want to go on MekHQ, I have to click on the MekHQ button. If I go on Notes, IntelliJ, yada, yada, yada. The problem I have is I still haven't got into the habit of when I switch on my computer to the new screen. Say, for example, switching from IntelliJ, the IDE, where I develop, to the instance of MekHQ. I have to come over here and click MekHQ. If I don't do that, you guys get abandoned on wherever I was last. And that's what I'm still getting into the habit of that. I will figure it out eventually. But it just takes time for me to learn these habits. So we were in the middle of doing a thing. Let's get back to doing that thing. So let's break this out. So we're just breaking this out into a single method so that we can reuse it. We're not having to duplicate all this code in multiple places. So we're just going to call this remove crew. And what we want to do, first we want to pass in units. That's easy enough. And then we also want to pass in... no, we can't. Oh, we can. We can pass in the J item. So let's go up here. Yes, okay, this works. So we're going to call key. We're going to make a value called key. So what that is it's going to be this. We're going to use this to fetch all the data. And we're going to pass key into remove crew. And we also need to pass in a Boolean. Now I can just put true here, but I prefer to keep my Booleans established so that it's easier to read. So if we're removing, we're keeping the text, then we need to keep text. So let's pass that in. Now we have maybe half an hour left on stream. We've been streaming for about 4 hours, and I need to remind my dogs that I love them and remind my cats that I exist. So let's see here. That's all good. That's all working. I'm going to come up here and do the same. So this time, I need to update that. There we go. And this time we're not keeping text. So the key goes here. Let's get rid of that. So what this is going to go ahead and do is this is going to pass the key in. So essentially, what you see here, bring it back, this is going to be replaced by the key, this block of text here. So it's going to be dynamic. And we like dynamic because it means less work. We can set the name as well. It's going to be the same as the key. And keep text is here. I'm just going to rename this to menu item because it's now dynamic as well. So we're not going to want to hard code in what is specific. And there we go. Means we can get rid of this as well. And that is our nice bit of quality of life. So we didn't, because this was meant to only be a feasibility test, we didn't know if we could do this. We didn't create a branch, and you must always create a branch. What I did there was very, very dangerous, because if I push the code to main, you can recover pretty easy if you commit. So committing is just a local change. If you push the commit, that is, you tell MekHQ in the big grand repo, hey, this is a permanent change, it is a massive pain in the bum. It is a massive pain in the bum to fix. Now, there are many different ways people use to come up with what they want to name their branches. I prefer the mimetic approach, where the name of the branch is something that I can look at the name and go, oh yeah, it's that branch. Because it also means that when I'm searching for older branches, it's a little bit easier. Some users, developers, just put the case number in. I really don't like that personally. So with how our code base works, the name of the PR, the pull request, that is you saying, hey, I would like to officially submit this code to the repo to submit these changes, is also doubles as our patch notes. So we always try to make sure that our titles are relatively easy to understand. And because GitHub's really clever, it will use your first commit title as the PR title. So let's go over to Safari. Where are we right now? Let me just check I'm not on the wrong Safari page. No, I'm on the right page. Cool. Boop. Safari. So here's what we did earlier. That was a lot of work. Still surprised that went through quickly. We've actually, we've done surprisingly well today. We've managed to get a few things done a lot quicker than I realized. So here's what I said earlier, where it shows it uses my commit title as the name. So whenever you're writing a pull request, as I've said many times before, you want three things. You want to explain the problem, what you've done to fix it, and then any ancillary information. In this instance, it's really simple. So players have the option to remove all crew via a right-click menu in Hangar. However, this removes all crew. Some players want to just remove the crew, not the text. There we go. Nice and simple. And we're going to classify this as UI, UX, user experience, and do we have anything to do with units? We don't need to get about that, it's fine. So what will happen now is we have a multi-stage review process. So the first step is I review the code myself. Now I've already done that because I did that whilst I was working. The next stage is the automated test. That's what's running down here at the bottom. So all these tests have to pass before we can even consider merging it. The next stage is the automated Copilot review. Now, there is a lot to be said about AI, and not a lot of it is good. However, as a small, unpaid volunteer organization, we have to use the tools that are available to us. But just by having a bot go over the code and tell us if it can spot any silly mistakes has saved so much hassle. However, you cannot trust the AI. You can't, and I would never suggest anybody start vibe coding. I'm never gonna suggest that. So the automated review is not the final stage. It's not even the most important stage. The most important stage is the human review. So one of our, I guess you could say staff, I'm not sure if staff's correct here, but one of the team will come in and they'll manually review this. And the human reviewer has the final say. Copilot can glaze me to kingdom come, but if the human says it's bad, it's bad. The AI is just there to find the silly mistakes that just slip through. Because sometimes the AI finds something that humans miss, and vice versa. And so, to try and give you guys the highest quality product, in air brackets, we have to use these tools. Now, does that mean we're turning into AI flop? God, no. I wouldn't be here if that was the case. I am here to program. I love programming. I love crafting experiences for you, the player. But that's me blabbering on my soapbox, just doing one last quick double checkaroo that we are in fact not keeping text here, and we are in fact keeping text here. I want to double check something. My spidey senses are tingling. Let me jump over to IntelliJ. I want to make sure I haven't got my conditionals the wrong way around. I have. Oh. And this is why you always double check your work. So we're going to change this to is keep tech. Yeah, no, so this is why first and foremost is to check your own work. And what we did at some point while we were developing this, we just flipped the conditional. There we go. So this is now defaulting to not keeping the tech because that was the original system. And here If we're not keeping the tech, we're going to remove it. So I just fixed that. Let's get conditionals. And there we go. So we've maybe got half an hour left on stream, as I say. If any of you are enjoying the stream, please consider giving us a follow. We stream 5 times a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, we have the dev streams, live development. Then on Friday evening, my time, you can check the schedule for your time. We have our ongoing MekHQ campaign where we play BattleTech together and try and take our ragtag band of Rasselhaig House people and try and build them up ready to face the clans. And I promise you, we will not be accepting their Bachow. So let's just push this. And that is another one we can tick off the box. Radar says, oh no. I say, oh yes. Because we're going to roleplay it. Exactly. We are going. So when you there's an Easter egg. When the clans offer you a Bachow, if you are an inner sphere campaign within a certain period of in-game time, you do have the option to click accept your what. Oh, I think we've used the is it some kind of joke line. I think that's the line from the cartoon we used. Yeah, is this some kind of joke? And I can promise you, refusing the Bachow, the clans do not take kindly. That is going to be the end of our campaign. Because I love the emergent narrative of MekHQ. I've said this many times before. I believe it has just as much power to tell an emergent narrative as your Rimworlds, as your Dwarf Fortresses, as your Stellaris's, which I love. But I like to have my campaigns have a definitive end. And we are not going to survive the clan invasion. But the story of how we desperately try to, that's worth following in my opinion. That's worth telling, I should say. And as you, my viewers, following along, I think that's going to tell an interesting story for us all. But next up, we're jumping back into Discord. So we need to tell the user that we did it. So let me just jump to, I'm not going to change view because I'm just going to jump back and forth between Discord, but you can still let them know, hey, we fixed this. Now, ordinarily, if you want to change something to change in MegaMek, MekHQ, whatever, you do need to open a case on GitHub. However, right now, with me coming back to the project and really jumping in, I wanted to kind of make the time between someone requesting a small quality of life improvement and seeing it in action be as short as possible. And so we're doing away with the need to open cases on GitHub right now, just so I can keep the ball moving, and we can just get the feedback that people can't normally be bothered to report. And and you can see all the dones down here on the left. It's resulted in some really good changes. So just commenting that the request has been fulfilled, and we're going to leave it open for a couple of days. There we go. And lastly but not least, let's just go and edit the post and mark it as done. Oh, that's a long old title. Now I could use an emoji and just put like a tick here, but I opted to go with text because it just makes it easier to read at a glance as to what's going on. Alrighty, so let's go back to the top. The hip shoulder replacement, we have another developer who is working on that. So I told them that they're basically going to give it a go, and if they run into trouble, they're going to flag it with me. I'm for better and for worse, I am the main MekHQ developer. So I passed it off to them, and they're just going to let me know if they need me to take it over. The parts in use filter, this is something we have another developer working on, so I don't need to touch that, and I am glad because that whole part of the UI is cursed. Change the default campaign save location. So seeing as that requires me to show you my default save location, I don't think I have any personally identifying information on here, but I would rather not risk it. So we're just going to ignore that. Rearrange the briefing room layout. I showed this off the other day, but this is not something I'm working on. But this is the upcoming improvements that IllianiDev, they gave me permission to show it the other day. has been working on for the briefing room. And just this is so much better use of screen real estate. Now this is very work in progress. So this will change between now and when it's released. But this is just a glimpse at what we're moving towards. It looks like I'm getting flagged. So let's go back down the list. Another change default save location. Ooh, here is the big one. So we simply do not have time to address this today. But I'll flip us back over to IntelliJ and I'll talk. We're not in MekHQ. So I'll talk to you what the issue is and what we're going to do to fix it. Right now, actually, let me boot up MekHQ. It'll be easier to show you. So we'll get that loading. Right now, the way parts, so spare parts for your mechs and your vehicles and all that good stuff are handled is you put in the order and it's dumped into an array. I can't quite remember the type of array. It might be a map. It might be a list. God, I hope it isn't a list. To be fair, neither a map or a list is good for us, but regardless, it's just dumped into a big old list. The order in which parts are actually the order for the part is placed by your administrators is dependent on where it is in the list. There is currently no way for a player to say, oh god, I need mech left arms and I need them yesterday. I want you to prioritize ordering mech left arms. There's no way whatsoever. And that's a really bad experience. Now, there are two avenues that we can take depending on how the data is stored. If it is a list, I know I said, oh god, I hope it's not a list. I say that because that was just a really poor way to store it. But if it's a list, it actually makes our life easier. So I'm just going to launch into, let's go with a new campaign. So if it's a list, lists are not order agnostic. So what that means is, if you imagine you have a piece of paper in your hand and it's entitled 1 through 10, just as an example, and you put an item in number 1 and an item number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The way the list is set up, that order will not change. It is consistent. So you can say to the list, hey, I want to get item 4. And so long as the order in the list is not manually changed, item 4 will always be the same thing. Apparently Spotify's decided it doesn't want to play music anymore. Oh well. I'll fix that in a second. You'll have to do without boring music. Sorry about that, Sam. But what that means is you can change the order. So if you wanted, for example, to say that, okay, I see I have an item at list 4. I actually want that in item 1. You can do that. And so if it's stored in a list, and I haven't done an investigation yet, so I'm not sure. If it's stored in a list, you can do that. It's very easy to organize. And all I need to do is just add a little button. Let me create a company and I can show you. All I need to do is add a little up-down button to the ordering sheet, and it's super easy. I do not think, click past the rubbish, blah, 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 blah. I do not think that, here we go. So here's how it's ordered. So this, I believe, is the order in which it's stored right this second. But all I would need to do is add a little up and down button on the right here somewhere to move it up and down the list. That's relatively simple. How I think it's stored is in a hash map. And a hash map is... I've mentioned this many times in stream, but I know we have some people who are relatively new joining us. So what a hash map is, it is a type of array. A list is also a type of array. And a hash map is frequently known in other programming languages as a dictionary. And personally, I think a dictionary is a better term for it because that more accurately represents what it is. If you've taken your... Atira said, did I know that if you select an item you can and press left or right, you can adjust the number of parts? I did. So Pink Billy says they disagree that dictionary better sums up what it is. The reason why I say the dictionary is a better term is because I am normally explaining what a map is to non-programmers. And I see why map is better, but I think for non-programmers, it's a lot easier to. And they say that people say they understand why I say it. No, it's for programmers and people who understand the architecture. Yes, a map is technically the more accurate name for it. But back to my explanation. So if you imagine you have in your hand the Oxford English Dictionary or your national dictionary of choice, and the dictionary is full of keys and values. So you might have the key sandwich, and the value is its meaning. So you might have sandwich, a thing what you eat, best with cheese. In code, it works the same effectively. So a map is a key value system. You have one item, which is the key, and another item, which is the value. What I suspect we have, if we look on this list here, I suspect we have a code for example, heavy flamer, and that is the key. And the value I expect is going to be all of this information. So I can go to the map and say, hey, I want to get heavy flamer, and it's going to give me access to all this information. Cool. Here's the problem. Maps are order agnostic. I mentioned earlier that a list will retain the order in which it's stored. 1 will always be 1. 5 will always be 5, unless you change it. A map will not do that. There is no ordering to a map. You cannot manually order it. You can jump through some very obscure hoops and kind of maybe force it to be ordered in a kind of broken way. It is terrible. Basically, it's like it's the classic trying to put a square block in a circle hole. If you hammer it hard enough, you can kind of vaguely make it fit, but you're more likely just to break the thing you're trying to slide it into. So if it is stored in a map, we don't have a way to order it. And I suspect that is the case, because that explains why we've never given the user a way to prioritize. So if that's the case, and seeing as we're not really going to have time to do much more today, I might as well continue explaining. If that's the case, what we're probably going to do, and this is going to be tomorrow's task, because I hate myself, and this is the last of the big ones left on the Spit and Polish project. So I think this is what we're going to tackle tomorrow. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to add a button over here that says something along the lines of order prioritization. And you click on that button. It's going to open up a dialog that's going to have a list of all the items that you've got ordered and their priority. And we'll let you reorganize the priority. Then, when it comes to ordering the parts, we're going to have a separate, we'd basically be able to query what is the part's priority and then order it based on then. Now, there's going to be a bunch of architectural considerations I need to do beforehand. I suspect my time tonight is not going to be relaxing in front of the TV. It's going to be going through the code base. King Mel says, it does seem like it might be ordered. Whenever you add an item, it's always added to the bottom. It's possible. Like I say, right now, I have a vague idea of where the code is stored. I have not seen the code myself. So I'm basically exploring options. And what I'll probably end up doing tonight, after I've had my dinner, I'll most likely be just looking through the code, doing a bit of a recce for tomorrow. But we've still got about 15 minutes left today. If anybody has any questions, be it about MegaMek, MekHQ, or games design in general, just let us know. Here it says they do believe they're first come in, first served. That all suggests that it's stored as a list. And if it is stored as a list, I personally think it would have been better if it wasn't. But for our purposes, it is absolutely better if it's stored as a list. I do still think if it is stored as a list, we're still going to have a separate button that says, hey, reorder prioritization. The reason being, when I originally said we'd up and down here, as more I've looked to this, more of it is this problem. Because if you hit name, suddenly it's going to change. Now, the other thing is, we can't have baked-in priorities. Why can't we have baked-in priorities? Because if we did that, the way the ordering system works, now this I know for a fact because I've tried it before, because not being able to order your orders it's been a stand in my shoe for well over a year at this point. So I've been well aware of this problem. But the reason why we can't add prioritization per item baked in is because if we did that, we would have to go in and update every item class. And because of decisions made 2 decades ago, all items are hard-coded, which means if you think how many different items there are in MekHQ, is hundreds of classes. That is really not something I'm going to willing to sit down and do. It might be the better option, but it's not good. Pigbilly says, just ask Copilot to fix it. I would rather not. If when Copilot breaks stuff, I'm the one that's going to have to fix it. And I think you all know what I think of vibe coding at this point. There are some things that like the AI can help with, writing documentation. Most of the time, if it's not ChatGPT is terrible at documentation. But I would rather leave the programming to the humans. And that's not just because I absolutely love programming. I am terribly autistic. Programming is my hyper-focus. But yeah, like I say, we're kind of winding down now. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And if you've enjoyed, I know some of you were only here for the last half an hour or so, but if you enjoyed listening to me blabber on, think you might find me entertaining, consider hitting that follow button. We're probably going to start just closing off the stream for now, because we've got 10 minutes left. There really isn't much left to do. I'll talk a little bit about the Scrotorious Bastards, our ongoing MekHQ campaign, just to fill the last few minutes. We actually got our first piece of fan art. I need to double check exactly who it came from, so I know their Twitch handle, so I can credit them properly tomorrow evening. But we got our first piece of fan art. One of the things we discovered through the random personality generator that flash fried, the hero of last week, the character that absolutely saved our campaign. They are actually, according to their character bio, the randomly generated character bio, they have a fursona and everything. And so we got a fan art. We have official art of Flash Fry's persona. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. So we're going to be able to show that off on stream tomorrow. And of course, we'll be updating her pilot portrait to show off her original OC, and we're not allowed to steal it. Tira says, this better make it into the portrait folder. Unfortunately, no. We need to keep the portrait folder as generic as possible. And somehow I don't think furry art in the official portrait folder will go down well with some of our player base. Me, personally, I think it would be fantastic, but I think many of our player base might be a little bit upset. Tira says, no, I mean, not the actual MekHQ one. No, we will be changing Flash Fried to use her persona as a portrait in game. So anytime we have events with Flash Fried or go to her character sheet, we'll be able to see her true identity. But let's slip over to that one scene I never forget to change to, but the one scene none of us enjoy. That's right. It's the stream ending one. I don't know why Spotify has decided it didn't want to play anymore. I'm sure I'll need to figure that out later. Spotify can be a bit pain in the bum. But I hope everyone enjoyed yourself today. As I say. Ook, welcome to the stream, Ook. Ook asks, dumb question. If you include custom mechs in the same file, should custom portraits be in there too? Ooh. That is an interesting question. It's going to depend on how we save it. If we save the portrait as a hash might not be the correct term for it, but bear with me. If we store it as a hash, then it would be possible to rebuild it from that hash. However, what I know we store it instead of a file reference. So what's happening is we're building the portrait not from bits and bobs. We're just saying, hey, the portrait lives here. And then MekHQ goes there to fetch the portrait. And that's why if I load one of your campaigns while I'm testing stuff and you've got custom portraits, to me, they just appear as the default portrait. But yeah, I think we've done. We had a really good, productive day today. I'm going to continue working into the evening, but that's going to be my time. I like to, when I could stream all of my development all the time. I enjoy hanging out with you folks, but it does slow me down, and especially as we draw close to our next version. Those of you who aren't aware, version 51.0 will be launching either at the end of this month or early next month. Hammer, our project lead, came on stream the other day and confirmed that, so look forward to it. But that means I've got a lot of stuff I need to get done ahead of time, and sometimes it's just nice to just relax program rather than also needing to feel like I should be entertaining. And let's be fair, I'm not that entertaining anyway, so it's a bit of a wasted effort. But yeah, I think we did well today. We fixed and updated StratCon facilities so they're no longer as oppressive. And we've added that quick feature to make removing crew from vehicles a lot easier. And we've started to talk about and plan what we're going to do tomorrow. So if you're interested in seeing how we address one of the biggest points of player feedback that we've consistently had over the years, then definitely join us tomorrow. As I say, you can check the schedule, you'll see when we're streaming. And if we're lucky, it'll be as smooth as the ones we had today. Now I know we're not going to be lucky, because tomorrow I will need to create UI elements, and our UI system is archaic at best. Awful at, well, it's just awful. But really, I am running out of things to talk about, and I know it's still another 7 minutes to the advertised stream, but I think at this point, rather than me just talking nothing for another 7 minutes just to hit the time, I think we'll end it here. So thank you so much for everybody who joined us. If you're interested in following, now's the time. I'm going to go make myself some dinner. I think I'm going to make spaghetti dinner tonight. I see Terrace has the same idea. But yeah, I hope everybody has a lovely evening. I hope you get a chance to spend some time with your loved ones, and if you can't, I hope you get to blow up some fun mechs. And make sure you look after yourselves. People don't get told this enough, but as long as you're trying your best, and this is a difficult world, but as long as you're trying your best, that's all anyone can really ask for. Well, thank you for everybody for coming in, and Omnituans, thank you so much for the raid. That is, in fact, our first raid. I would continue the raid, but I'm gonna be honest here. I don't know how. This is my second week, and I was barely on Twitch before then, so it's my second week as a streamer. I don't know how to continue the raid, so I am terribly sorry for those of you who are hoping to get raided onto another Twitch. I can, however, recommend MekHQ is another Twitch streamer. They just stream their own campaign. And there's also Joker. Joker does a multiplayer campaign every Saturday evening that are very entertaining. Especially if you like seeing MekHQ used in ways it was never designed and just broken apart. But regardless, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. And hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. But until then, goodbye and good night. Fluffy, Fluffy is another streamer. I'm terrible because I don't know their schedule, but apparently they're streaming tonight at 8 Eastern. They also do a multiplayer stream, and I am terrible at catching Fluffy streams, but they are really entertaining. Many of the same people from Joker's stream are in Fluffy's, but even so, the theming of the streams are very different. So maybe consider giving Fluffy a look in. But really, as I say, good night and farewell. May all your fights be victorious.